don't know, my dad's more important than you. Yeah, I mean, no, he is. He's never given me any reason. But I think it's just the. No, don't do that.
That would be like peanut butter.
Oh,
And have this really good, those flavored Tootsie Rolls. Sorry, my throat is all red. So I had to go to a meeting in Wes's office. I was like, I have to go see the principal? Yeah, that's proper for Allison.
yeah.
So I was like, I have to go see the principal? That's really scary.
Good morning, everyone. We're ready to start the meeting today. Before we go any further, determination of quorum, definition of quorum, I just want to give honor to Mr. Matthews, who has been here for years, I think 20-something years? Is that correct?
Yeah, 19, yes, sir.
19.
Uh-huh.
And chair of the board for many, many years, and just stepped down surprisingly last month. So give honor to him for all of his years of service that he gave to this particular board. Madam Secretary, do we have a quorum today?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chair. With 7 members present, we do.
Thank you. Do we have proof of publication of the meeting?
Yes, sir. It was published on Thursday, October 26, 2023, in the Escambia County Sun Press.
Thank you. And I will entertain a motion for approval of the minutes for the October 4th meeting.
So moved.
And a second.
Second.
All in favor say aye. All opposed likewise. Hearing none, motion is approved. I will have us raise our hands instead of saying, on advice of the council's council. This is the time for public forum. If anyone is here today, do we have anyone signed up for public forum?
We had no speaker request forms submitted.
No speaker request, okay. If there is none, then we will move towards the board secretary status report.
There's no report for the board at this time, other than Mr. Matthews is going to be receiving his years of service proclamation tomorrow evening at the Board of County Commissioner meeting. If anybody would like to attend and give their gratitude for his service. If you'd like, I can run through the rules before we move into those hearings, and that way just everybody in the room's aware of our board rules.
Thank you.
Please silence all cell phones. If you wish to speak, please let the board secretary know in advance. Otherwise, raise your hand for the board chair to recognize your request. When the chairman calls you to speak, come to the podium, adjust the microphone, and then state your name and address for the record. You are requested to keep your remarks brief and factual. Both parties of any issue will be granted uniform maximum time to speak. This usually runs between 3 to 5 minutes. This hearing is considered quasi-judicial. Conduct is formal, and profane or derogatory comments will not be tolerated.
Thank you. So moving to contractor applications. First we have is Omar Macho. I may have this wrong. Would you please approach the podium?
Yes, sure.
All right.
Mr. Macho, if you'd please come forward to the podium, state your first and last name and address for the record, please.
Yeah, my name is Omar Macho, and my address is 5510 West Fairfield Drive, Pensacola, Florida, 32506.
Well, thank you, Mr. Macho. After reviewing his application, board member staff will recommend that he would be approved for examination.
Say it again, please.
After reviewing your application, the staff's recommendation is approval for examination.
Yes.
Mr. Macho, the board's gonna now review your application.
Okay,
And they may have questions for you, they may not, and then they're gonna make a decision on your application,
all
okay?
right. Thank you.
Anybody besides me have questions?
Motion to approve the application.
Motion has been granted and a second. Any discussion? I would have just one, and that is, so have been laying tile?
Yes,
And so you feel ready to step up then for the residential contractor license?
of course, yes. Well, actually, I've been doing more than tile in my entire life. You know, I've been doing construction since I was a little kid. Actually, I started by my own when I was 21 years old. I'm not from United States, I'm from Cuba. So that's where my, career started. So I know everything about cinder blocks, concrete, rebars, all the stuff like that, yeah. I've been doing it for 23 years by my own. Yeah. So that's why I feel, ready.
Anybody else have any questions? All in favor, raise your right hand. All opposed, same sign. Seeing none, motion is carried. You have been approved for licensing exam of the residential contractor. And the famous words of Mr. Matthews, don't come back.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thanks. Can I sit?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
You're done.
Thanks.
You can leave. And don't come back.
I'll come back.
Meaning, don't get in trouble. Next up, we have Mr. Steve Allen Jenkins. Here.
Great. Mr. Jenkins, please come to the podium. State your first and last name and address for the record, please.
My name is Steve Jenkins, 2618 North 6th Avenue, 32503.
Board members, after reviewing Mr. Jenkins' application, we will recommend approval for examination.
Motion to approve.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? You guys leave it up to me all the time. Now that I'm up here, somebody's supposed to be doing this. Thank you for submitting everything. And obviously, we all have a past.
Yes, sir.
I don't care who you are. Some of us, it's obviously public, and some of it's not, but everybody's got that. And you've had things in the past to have to deal with.
Yes, sir.
Obviously, in business, that's a big level. And I would encourage you to really seek a mentor, if you don't already have one, to help you as you start, you know what I'm saying?
Okay.
Because it would go a long ways. I'm thankful I had, when I was a kid, started that, and that makes a big difference for you. Just
Yes, sir.
words of advice from whatever it's worth.
Thank you.
Any other input? All in favor, raise your right hand. All opposed, same sign. You've been approved, Mr. Jenkins.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. And they saved the best for last, is what they told me here. Mr. Michael McCombs. By the way, this guy is on the board for the Santa Rosa County Competency Board, so y'all behave here today.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My name is Mike McCombs. I live at 5702 Lakeside Court in Milton, Florida.
Board members, after reviewing Mr. McComb's application, this is a reinstatement of delinquent license being brought before you. We will defer to the board for approval.
Mr. McCombs, if you'll go ahead and advise the board on the reason for that you didn't renew your license on a regular basis.
Sure. I got my mechanical license in 1979, a few years after we went into business. My father had a mechanical license, and we used his mechanical license. And I will tell you as many CEU classes, and I'm a certified CEU instructor myself for the state of Florida, but at all the CEU classes I've ever been in and all the seminars I've ever been in, nobody has ever said you don't need to put your license in retirement or make it inactive. And I tell you why. You pay the same money. And I didn't know that. And the reason I'm here, my father passed away in June, and I had all the other licenses, but my mechanical license was inactive. And that's the reason why I wanted to get it out of retirement. And I will tell you, it has been a job. And anyone that has to deal with the state, I feel sorry for you. I know y'all deal with them here, and they're just as delinquent on y'all as they are on us, but I finally got it back from the state, the license back from the state, and I just wanted to go and be sure that I was reinstated in Escambia County. And that's it. I have other, if you need to hear it, but that's.
We're happy to do this for you. Your dad was an awesome man.
Well,
too.
thank you, sir.
I knows him, Mr. McCombs.
We sure I appreciate it. And he was. I miss him.
Yeah. Do I have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Second?
I second it.
All in favor, or any discussion, I should say, there's none. All in favor, raise your right hand. All opposed likewise. Thank you, Mr. Mike, for being here.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank y'all.
Yes, sir.
See you later.
Good to see you. So now we move into the probable cause hearing. Moving along good today.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. Our first probable cause hearing is James B. Freeman, doing business as Freeman Roofing, state registered license number RC 0058058, contractor competency board complaint number 230670 COM. It's in regard to Nick and Chloe Sexton, the homeowner, the property owners at 101 South F Street, Pensacola, Florida, 32502. This is in the city limits. As you can recall, this case came before you in a previous hearing, and they were supposed to come back last month with a follow-up. However, Mr. Freeman requested a continuance from the chairman at the time. It was approved, and so now this is coming before the board for an update on where this case stands. Mr. and Ms. Sexton, are you present today? Yes. And are you going to provide testimony? And Mr. Freeman, are you present today?
Mr. Freeman wasn't able to be here today. We have Mr. Rafiq, the superintendent, and he will be providing testimony too.
Perfect. At this time, I'm going to have the parties sworn in. Just be sworn in. And I'm going to have Ms. Reaver sworn as well.
Do you solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? I swear.
At this time, I guess you would just ask for an update from both parties and see where it stands.
Okay. Mr. and Ms. Sexton, if you'd like to approach the.
Good morning. Chloe Sexton, Nick Sexton. We live in Gulf Breeze at 110 Shoreline Drive, and this is in regards to 101 South F Street, our wedding venue. As of right now, our roof is uninsurable. Everything in our building is kind of on the line until we get our roof fixed, and that's our biggest concern. Our property in the venue is not protected at the moment. Our ceiling that we just had redone is sagging, so we just have some big problems we want to address. We attended the public forum of October 4th hearing to inform that the board of the mismanagement that has continued with our defective roof rectification by Freeman Roofing. Freeman was granted an extension of time at the last hearing with the excuse given that we are a wedding venue and that they did not have enough available work days or days that we don't have events to complete the repairs. However, they have not come to work on many days that we've said, please come. They've come on wedding days though. At the last hearing, we informed the board that Freeman Roofing has attempted to clean the rust off of our roof, causing further damage to the paint surface and voiding the paint warranty, which is supposed to be a 20-year warranty, due to the use of abrasive tools such as magic erasers, putty knives, steel wool. There is also still large areas of rust present. Okay, sorry. Due to the damage caused, lack of engineering requirements, and numerous construction defects, we have retained board-certified construction defect attorney John Trawick, in addition to forensic construction expert Arcadia ICR, and we have Todd here today with us. Their report specifically identifies several serious construction defects arising from Freeman's Roofing's improper installation of the roofing system. Additionally, Arcadia indicates that the construction defects are so numerous and so prevalent that the entire roofing system will require removal and replacement. Freeman has received a Chapter 558 defect notice letter. We request that the board direct Freeman Roofing to remedy all defects as outlined in the Arcadia report, and we request that the board direct Freeman to supply us with a 15-year workmanship warranty as they advertise on their website. This
You're
does
still
not
gonna-
mention
I
shingles.
think you're going a little fast still. I've watched.
Sorry.
Just so you, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's, yeah,
Want to
that's
make
what it
sure I
is.
say everything I wanted to say. Freeman has continued to display poor work, mismanagement at the job site, and disrespect for our business and event schedule. We request that the board consider a serious action today. Thank you.
Thank you, guys. And would council or somebody like to speak for Mr. Freeman Roofing?
Good morning, Ben Alexander. My office address is 811 North Spring Street, Pensacola, Florida. I'm here on behalf of Freeman Roofing, and we were here at the October 4th hearing. Since that point, Freeman Roofing has gone out at no less than 4 different times to begin to remedy many of the things that were since identified in the Arcadia report. So some of the things that were identified in the Arcadia report have since been rectified already. Mr. Rafiq here is the superintendent of the job, and he can testify more about the current status of repairs.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Rafiq Hamad, 4201 Auckland Road, Pace, Florida. We have the schedule that was given to us by Mr. and Mrs. Sexton to come out to the property and do work. I specifically highlighted the time for the crew to go out there and get the job taken care of based on the manufacturer recommendation. The days we're on the job were on the 15th, the 18th, the 20th, and also the 19th, which is a day that we were told not, we initially were told they're not available, but when we asked if we can come, they told us we can go ahead and come out and take care of it. We addressed about 80% of the issues on the roof line as far as the rust, using recommended methods by the manufacturer to keep the warranty intact. And then we replaced pipe boots and heater stack as well. And again, it goes back to the schedule is kind of tight. We only have so many days a week to work on it, in addition to all the other venues we have going on and other jobs.
Anything else you'd like to tell us before we open up?
Yes, Chairman. I will say that Freeman Roofing is dedicated to continue working on it and rectifying these issues that ultimately will pass inspection and meet approval of the homeowner. So that's an ongoing process. With the limited number of days available for the venue to be worked at, in addition to the normal complications of other jobs, getting
Weather.
the crews out there and stuff like that. I believe they provided something along the line of about 7 or 8 days in October, of which they were able to make it out there. I think 4 or 5 different
At least 4 or
days.
5
So,
days.
they'll continue to do that. In the meantime, I believe yesterday they received correspondence from Mr. John Trawick regarding a 558 construction defect notice. And what that is, it starts a process to allow the contractor to correct the defects within the given time. The Arcadia report was also provided at that time, so we're of course going to address that legal issue as well. And in doing so, we believe that will ultimately rectify the issues complained of by the homeowner or by the property owners.
I do want to add one more thing. Mr. and Ms. Sextons are requesting a 15-year workmanship warranty. I just want to clarify that. They were given a 5-year warranty by Mr. Freeman because that's all that metal roof we're willing to give warranty for. The 15-year warranty is strictly for our shingle roofs. And we advertise for it on our website, but we don't, it's strictly for shingles. We don't offer it for metal, no, sir. And then part of their contract, a warranty was never offered, but at Goodwill, we went ahead and gave them a warranty as well.
So the metal roof company will only give a 5-year warranty on their product?
No, I'm talking about workmanship, our workmanship, not the manufacturer warranty.
Just on
Yeah,
your, on the Freeman
workmanship.
side?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Does anybody up here have any questions besides me?
We had an expert, they said they bought along with them. You wanna hear him out?
Yeah, would you like to hear Mr. Alford? Excuse us a second, Mr. Alford. Welcome to the podium. You have to state your name. Did you swear in earlier?
He did not.
Do you solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do,
Thank you.
and I can talk fast as well, so if I do talk fast, tell me to slow down. My name is Todd Alford. I am the managing member of Arcadia. Our address is 3355 Addison Drive, Suite B, Pensacola, Florida. I'm a licensed general contractor. I'm also an expert in most exterior envelope systems, windows, doors, and roofing. And one thing I think that is important, this is a re-roof, a roof on top of a roof. And the requirements of this roofing system require per project to have it engineered specifically to that particular project. Because as a roofing component, if you're putting something on top of something else, you can't blatantly endorse that installation without understanding what you're putting it onto. What's the substrate, what's the structure, what's the function, what's the slopes, what's the interfaces, what's the connection points. To my understanding, that was never done. Second off is, this system only recognizes the installation on a a steel structure, metal building. This is a wood frame structure, not metal. So it doesn't meet the minimum requirements of a steel structure. It's wood. That's very important. The other component is they left the existing light panels in place, which is not a structural type roofing system. They had clear light panels. They went right over those. Improper fastening, improper connections, too many fasteners not penetrating into structure. So I'm not sure how to retrofit this to meet the minimum requirements of Florida Building Code. And I'm talking about minimum requirements, not an upgrade, which is required in their manual, which I brought with me today, that outline what must be done prior to the installation. Those standards have not been met yet. So I'm here today, if y'all have questions, talk about the install details, be happy to walk through that.
I do have one question. Did you just say this is a re-roof, not a re-roof, is it a roof over?
Yes, ma'am. And that's real important because if you're gonna put a roof on top of another roof, how's that roof installed? How's it functioning? What's underneath it? We're not tearing down shingles and taking off and seeing what the substrate's like. We're relying on other components.
And I just want to stay on this question. Ms. Sexton, did you just say that earlier that you cannot get insurance because of the roof systems?
We have insurance currently based on our original roof. Getting new insurance, like our insurance is nearly doubled in price. Like we're just having huge issues with getting new insurance and them insuring what's in our venue right now.
Right. Okay.
Is that because of the roof, or is it just because everybody's insurance is
Yeah,
going up?
because everybody's insurance.
It could be anything.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not an insurance adjuster, but we're still in the process of doing that and getting quotes.
I mean, commercial insurance in general is doubled for most everybody, and you guys are close enough to the water that it's an issue, and based on where you are, so.
Yeah, the thing is, right now, you could just literally, myself, my husband,
Right.
too, you can just pull the roof up.
Right, and I understand, but the
Definitely not, the wind inspector comes out.
the re-roof is where I picked up. Okay.
See,
I
my
mean,
concern
the
is
roof
if-
over, excuse
in
me.
my world, underwriting comes out and they look at a building and they see all these leaks showing up. Not gonna be real easy to get insurance.
Right, and a roof over will also exclude. Right.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
And the permit's still, we can't close the permit out until the roof's done correctly.
So you also mentioned that it doesn't meet the minimum requirements.
Yes, sir.
So have we had a chance to look at the roof, the county, and to see if it's within the guidelines of?
Nash, can you put your mic on?
You mentioned that it doesn't meet the minimum requirements. Did we have a chance to go look at the roof to look and see if it's meeting the minimum requirements?
The
Or
roof
has it
is,
not been inspected yet?
So, as you recall from the last hearing in regard to this case, they had a past inspection, which was ultimately revoked by the city. This is located within the city,
got you.
and we don't have a representative here today from the city. But the inspection that passed was rescinded by the building official of the city.
And now Freeman Roofing has got this report that you've put together, and then are they agreeing to do what's in that report, or?
I understand they were delivered that report yesterday. I've received a copy of that report this morning. I have not had an opportunity to go through the entire report. However, it is the intention ultimately of Freeman to correct any issues with the roof. So without me personally knowing what all's in the Arcadia report so far, and again, that's just kind of I haven't had a chance to fully review it yet. My understanding otherwise though is yes.
Basically, the report says it needs to be taken down and completely redone. So Freeman is,
We're gonna look into that and see what needs to be done to rectify this roof, and that, if that's ultimately the course of action that's required, then that's gonna be a course of action that my client's gonna have to consider.
So let's just kind of dive into this a little further. So, I mean, traditionally, I'm pretty sure that Freeman Roofing gave a price based on a re-roof. So, the agreement, I guess, originally was a re-roof. The re-roof wasn't done right, or was it, according to your report, not even supposed to have been done without the engineering report? So I'm pretty sure there's gonna be some monetary discussions that's gonna be had between both parties. We can make a decision on this side whether or not that the roofing contractor has acted according to, our guidelines that we have. But I think this is probably gonna turn into a bigger dispute than just us making a decision, and I believe that, in my opinion, that we have to give the roofing company an opportunity to remedy the situation, and then take action if that remedy isn't, I guess, agreeable to both parties. But I do see it happening that, the roofing contractor is gonna say, well, we priced this, but in order for us to do the whole thing, this is what the price is gonna be. Oh, by the way, now you need an engineering report. So the clients are gonna have to sit there and get an engineering report done. So just kind of bear that in mind, that I think that's the path that I see going down with the report that you said you have, and it's not according to, the minimum requirements.
And I tend to agree with that. Obviously, my client's gonna hire their own inspector and send someone out, and with respect to Mr. Alford, there may be some disputes as to that, which will have to be hashed out. Now that the Sextons do have counsel, I have several ongoing cases with Mr. Trawick, so I don't have any doubt that we'll ultimately be able to work things out, ideally in a way that it'll be done outside of litigation, outside of this board, so that things can be resolved. And that is the goal, and Mr. Freeman and his company has been very diligent about that in the past, of ensuring that if there are any issues with their work, that they attempt to rectify it in a way that passes muster, and then of course meets the approval of the homeowner.
I also think the Sexton's issue is the timeline. And I know sometimes it gets difficult when you got an operating business and you got a roofing company and you have schedules, but I would think that Freeman Roofing would make this more of a priority than any, new jobs that are advanced, and move their schedules accordingly so you can accommodate this, because this can lead to a disaster, and I would think, and again, as me as a general contractor, I'd like to kind of like eliminate anything that I know that's going to be hot on the presses, and spend the amount of time and just focus on that. Let's get these clients, let's get them happy, let's put them where they need to be, so we can kind of like, bury that and move forward.
And absolutely, and as I mentioned, I think my clients were provided somewhere around the vicinity of 7 or 8 possible days, and I believe they hit 4 or 5 of them this past month. So they've been trying to do that. Obviously, not every day is going to work out for both parties. That scheduling mutual available time is difficult, but they have been diligent to try to go out there. It has received priority among their other jobs, especially in new jobs, and so they've been trying to send people out there when they're able to, and certainly Mr. Rafiq has gone out there multiple times just this past month to do so.
And they're providing you guys a calendar, correct, of the times that you have a venue that's available?
I provided them with 15 days that they could come, and that doesn't include like Sundays. I gave them, all the
Right.
weekends they could come. They came on two of the days they came were event days and like asked me to come inside. I have a bride in there getting ready. I don't really want, so it was way more than 7 that they were providing.
And we even allowed them to work on the wedding day.
We did.
And go up there and work on the booths and such. So we're willing to let them do things, it's just we do have weddings and you can't be working on the roof during.
So there's some give and take on both sides here to get this completed.
And I would just real quick remind that the whole reason we're having this problem is the mismanagement. There are guys out there working with no one in charge. Jimmy has been there maybe 1 or 2 times for an hour and then left. I will remind the board that I had to file a police report for one of their staff covering a security camera in order to use steel wool when cleaning the rust. We have a video of that. It was an intentional covering of that, not setting a bucket accidentally, anything like that. And there's Rafiq has maybe been there 1 day, but there's not been anyone in charge there. And I know they have other jobs and such, but it is a mismanagement issue.
He could have, I'm not gonna speak for FEMA, if he could have a lead guy that's there, that's over the ones that's there, that's tolerated in, so I'm not trying to, I'm just saying that could be something that's happening with that.
Can we, just 1 second? It's kind of difficult to keep talking back and forth without being at the podium and get the recordings. So if anybody like to talk, would step up.
Mr. Bell.
Hey, David,
Thank you.
hang on just a second. David, can I get a microphone from the back room, please?
I didn't catch that.
And just to say, they didn't get the report till this week. We had 5 days available for them to work last week, and we didn't see them 1 time last week. So there are days available, and they are not coming. There's still rust there to clean. There was 30 feet of rust. I expected them to come out, and nobody was there last week. So them saying that they aren't able to work is not true.
Can I ask a quick question? They're doing work to remediate something that was done in the past. It's sounding like, is what they're doing to remediate the damage going to be satisfactory? Because if they're coming out and doing something that is making it worse, or from what you've talked about, is what they're doing going to do any good in the end?
Yeah.
Or do we need to regroup?
Since we got the Arcadia report, things have changed. We gave them the opportunity since the last competency meeting to come out, start cleaning the rust, address the boots, and that's what the city inspector said. We need to address the boots to prevent further leaking. They did the boots. There's still rust on the roof. But once we received the Arcadia report, the lawyer told us to get the Arcadia report to confirm everything. That's when we decided that there's a lot more issues, and that they said that the metal structure the metal roof cannot go on a wooden building. And that became the biggest issue. It's like we have a roof on there that can't even be on our building. So it definitely needs to be taken off. So it doesn't matter about cleaning it or how many screws, it needs to come off, and we need a proper roof.
Are you still wanting to stay with the metal roof, or would you go back with the?
Well, from the report, it seems like we need to take the new roof off, the original metal roof off, and then see the purlins. There's a lot of purlins that from inside through the skylights, you can see that they're water damaged. They're old. I mean, the building was built in '46, so there's old purlins. To attach a new roof into old purlins and screws not catch into an old stretched out rotted purlin, I believe it says that it may need engineering to say, like, do we need a new plywood roof and then metal over that?
So was it metal before?
It was metal before on purlins.
Right, so
Yes,
it's
sir.
metal over metal.
Metal over metal, but
Okay.
the metal over metal has to go on a metal structure.
Correct.
Yes, and at our city assist meeting with the city of Pensacola, Tony, he came out and talked with Jimmy, and I submitted to Melissa, I recorded the meeting on my phone. I told Jimmy we were gonna, I said, I'm gonna record this, just because there's so much back and forth about what was actually said every time we talk with them. So that was submitted, yes. But Tony did direct him to get the engineering plans, and that was back in September when we did that. I think it was the 18th of September, and we haven't
received anything.
So the question is, if they keep going back out in these days, I still don't know if the proper remediation is being done, so.
Correct.
Well, now that they have the report and Trawick has said no further work is to take place until we figure out a solution. So we're at a standstill for this week for sure. But last week that we didn't know that the letter was the case. So we just haven't seen them in over a week. And just since Rafiq's here, we haven't seen him in a long time because Jimmy kind of took over. The original meeting, Rafiq was sent out. Jimmy said Rafiq was going to make decisions because he is the project manager. He just said he was. Jimmy said handle the project. Rafiq came out on a meeting with another manager, Sean Suggs. They both came up with a solution. They got on the roof. Rafiq pointed the rust. He's like, oh, that's gotten worse, obviously knowing that the rust was there. We got down. Rafiq said, I'm going to get the Freeman gooseneck trailer, and I'm going to head up north and get new metal for you. We're going to park it on the side of the road, and we're going to unload it one sheet at a time. The only reason this has turned into this big of an ordeal is because the Freemans said that they're not going to take Rafiq's word. But that is what Rafiq said as the project manager, and ever since then it has become a serious ordeal with Melissa Freeman emailing Chloe back and forth, and Rafiq has been cut out of this whole project. This is the first time we've seen Rafiq since the city assist meeting.
All right, I have two clarification questions. Was it your idea to do the roof over?
So I called and I
Or
emailed them on Facebook, and I was like, we have a metal roof, we do weddings, I don't think we can take this off. We have to be able to do weddings. I want a metal over metal. I've gone on YouTube and I saw that there's possible to do metal over metal. I asked Jimmy about doing some metal. I saw this one on YouTube where it was metal trusses put on top, or metal purlins put on top of the existing roof. Those get screwed down to the purlins, and then the new metal roof goes on. Jimmy brought up this Retro R. I never heard of Retro R. Jimmy's like, oh, well, I've got a better product for you that I've used before. He said that he's installed this product before. And I was like, great. He said it's got a felt backing. He said everything's good, you know? And I was like, that sounds great. I went with him because of how they've been advertising 42 years of service. And I was like, this guy knows what he's doing. We've had so many contractors come through. I just took his advice. I was like, okay, I'll go with what you're saying. I did say I wanted metal over metal. Because I'm just a customer. I didn't know. If he would have said, sorry, we can't do that, it needs to be taken off and done correctly, I would have been like, okay, tell us how it's got to be done. But to tell us that he's got a product that's going to be better than what I said, it's like, it's not. The first wedding we had with that new roof, it rained and there were 6 leaks. I mean, we were putting buckets under it. It was serious. And we haven't gone around the whole building to crawl the attic space to see if there's other leaks. We've only taken care of the leaks in the main ballroom,
We have
Mm-hmm.
the 5,000 square foot.
We
So-
have 8 inches of spray foam between the roof and our ceiling. So it's really hard to see besides where the LTP skylights are, where it's leaking.
But the main thing is that there was a manual provided with the Retro R. And I do not believe, if you look at the install, it's like Freeman didn't read the Retro R manual at all before they got out there and installed it. They installed every single panel and then went back and put screws in, is why they missed the purlins. They said that they chalk lined it, but if you get up there, if you put a chalk line down, there's screws all over the place. So it's like they were chasing the purlin the whole time, and that's why I think we came to this issue, that they just missed the purlins completely.
And when was the original install date? When did this all
It
start?
was around Memorial Weekend, so like May 31st.
Of this year?
Yeah,
It was a
3
3-day
days.
install, and now
Okay.
we're going
Couple
on
days
5
past
months
June.
Okay.
to try and rectify this. We just want a roof done correctly. We do weddings. We don't want the brides to show up and see any kind of leaks. If you're sitting there eating dinner and a drip starts on your table, people are gonna tell us. They aren't gonna care who we hired. It's all gonna come back to us. We really just need the roof to be correct. We spent over $1 million repairing this old building, and the roof was the last step to make this building whole. And they came in, they did the roof in 3 days. We thought, I mean, where they cut up the foam and shoved it in the holes, they convinced me over and over, we're Freeman Roofing, that's normal, it's good to go. We have a workmanship warranty. If any of that foam falls out, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, guys, it just seems like you should have put the whole strip and then put the metal roof on. But they literally cut up foam and shoved it in 200 feet of holes. And foam is falling out now. And I was like, when I asked Rafiq about it, I was like, yeah, aren't we supposed to put foam up there? This was the first day of install. Rafiq's like, yeah, we put a sticker up there. That's literally what he said, a sticker. And I was like, a sticker? I was like, I'm looking for foam, but
We've
I
since
just let them do their
educated
thing.
ourselves. We know there's a
Yes.
manual.
I've read the manual
We
since-
asked for,
Yes, ma'am.
we did ask for a new roof from the beginning, but we have really tried to follow the board's instructions to meet with the city and let them clean the rust and let them try and try and try. We're running in a hamster wheel here, and it's very clear with the manual and Arcadia's report that there's several pages of pictures. I think there's like 22 pages of pictures that you can see. We need a new roof. That is what we paid for. We paid $89,000 for this roof. We would like a new roof done right with a 20-year paint warranty and a 15-year workmanship warranty that is advertised on their website. Today, it says that. There's no mention of shingles. When I put something on my website, that's what I give my brides.
Is there a balance?
I don't want to insult you, and I know that you're emotional right now, and understandable. I'm familiar with your business and where you are and what you do. But when you speak, you have to really be considerate of our
Yes.
court reporter.
Sorry, I apologize.
And if she doesn't take it down right, there's problems
Got it.
on the flip side.
Yes,
and
ma'am.
I understand.
Yes.
And she's told me to slow down before, so I get it.
Yes, ma'am. Absolutely.
So I just remind you,
Yes.
just sometimes if you just take a breath and give her a moment to catch up to you, okay?
Definitely, yes.
Or you can always look at her. You don't necessarily, they're listening. You can always look at her and see if
Okay.
she's keeping up. We don't want to wear out her fingers.
Got it.
All right, thank you.
Yes.
Do you have any questions for us?
Go ahead.
No, you answered it, so you've been paid in full?
We have paid in full.
Yeah.
That was way back.
Okay.
We did a credit card discrepancy dispute, and Melissa, I guess, replied saying that they passed the permit and they gave them their full balance.
And
you know?
since then, that inspection's been rescinded, right?
Yes, the inspection's been reopened, the permit's being reopened, we have not been credited any money until the project's done. It's like they still have our $89,000, and we're just hoping to get the roof done correctly.
Okay. And then I've got one more question for the project manager.
Yes.
Thank you.
So one of the violations is failure to supervise construction activities. So who was supervising these construction activities?
My crew leader, Flores.
Okay.
Yep. I always have somebody in charge.
So how
on the job
do
site.
you feel about just the basic comments that they're making, that even the screws weren't lining up and the panels weren't done right? And, I mean, what is your opinion on that? Because you're his supervisor. Where do you stand
Well,
with that?
th-
Did he
there's
do
a-
a good job? Was his job done right, or was it simply?
There's a portion of the job that could have been corrected, that the guys went a little too fast in a couple of areas, and we said we are gonna rectify that. I find it very absurd that they will just come out and say absolute lies about what I said. They use the power of suggestion, that they shake their head, yeah, we're gonna get a new roof. I never once said you will get a new roof. I did say if I have to go get new panels could be 3, 4, 5, 10, not a whole roof. And it was mainly to address the skylights, and that's what I was talking about. They also mentioned Sean, and in their conversation with Sean, he said, what about our gutters? Look how the gutters are damaged. We went up there and we took pictures, and you can clearly see it, that it's kind of doing like almost S-turns, because they were tightened up closer to the eave, causing the gutters to turn. And Sean said, well, I know a gutter person, let me see what I can do. Again, that does not translate, you're gonna get new gutters. See, these are the things that they keep saying and putting words in people's mouths and lying blatantly and telling us that we're saying certain things. It makes me not want to stand here and discuss it, because I don't lie to people. I tell them straight up. Are there issues that needs to be handled? Yes. The rust, I noticed it, and I asked the guys, and they said, I don't know, we didn't see it, whatever, and I went up there and noticed the rust was getting a little worse, so I addressed it, and we talked to the manufacturer, find out exactly what needs to be cleaned, and even got the manual from them, the cleaning and the maintenance. And based on that, I personally went to Home Depot, or whatever supply company, and got the material for these guys, and I said, this is what we do, and you're gonna clean one section at a time, one area at a time. And the whole thing is them talking about the roof is installed on a wooden structure. or supposed to be installed on a metal structure. It was installed, it's a roof over. It's never meant to be installed straight into the purlins, okay? And then also, we haven't had a chance to confirm what they're saying about we missed all the purlins. For all we know, at the areas where the skylights, normally when you install skylights, you're not gonna install wood there to cover it. So there's a couple of purlins in each skylight that the guys have missed. But in order to find out what kind of decking you have underneath, we have to have access to the building, look inside, because they said they have 8 inches or 10 inches of foam. Okay, give us an opportunity to cut that foam out and see what you have underneath. When I walk it, and you guys are in the contracting business, you're a general contractor, you walked on a roof before, you know the difference between a solid deck and a purlin. You can feel it under your feet. And when I walk that roof, up and down, it is solid. It's got a little movement right where the skylights are, but that's about it. Everywhere else, it's solid. So to miss the purlins, because that's all you can see, underneath it could have nothing but solid deck. We need to look into that. And we haven't had a chance to do so because we're busy trying to address all the other issues on the outside, from the paint and all the good stuff that's up there.
You want to have questions?
Question. Did you have an engineer's report for the existing building prior to applying for a permit?
No, sir.
So in your application to get a roofing permit, there was no requirement for an engineer's evaluation of that existing building or roof?
No, sir. I called MBCI, the manufacturer, and asked them, it's like, no, it's a roof over, it does not add enough weight. Each panel weighs approximately 6 to 8 pounds, and that could be an exaggeration, that could be a little less. But spread among the whole roof line, it does not add, it's not like putting an F-250 on top of the roof where it puts a lot of weight in one section. And that was their argument before with us when they were trying to install an air conditioning unit.
I understand. There was just a question
Yeah,
that
sorry.
was part of the report, and it's a valid statement that it should have been evaluated. I'm not a contractor, I'm an engineer.
Okay.
So,
Well, I do appreciate it.
yeah. I'm assuming that there's a Florida product approval for the product that you put on?
Yes, sir.
Do you believe that the roof is installed by the minimum standards of the Florida product approval?
Yes. If it's not installed, stronger, because we did add few screws. And when we talked to the manufacturer, they said there's nothing wrong with installing more screws into it because where you're located. I mean, the property is less than a mile from the water. So if a hurricane comes, that building is gonna stand. But again, until that happens, we don't know. So.
I think that what we have to focus on is not necessarily the civil side, because there will be
May I add one more thing?
Sure.
You did, I think he did mention it a couple of times, said, no matter what we do, it's not gonna satisfy their needs. Correct?
Yeah, I'm trying to, because of the engineer report, which you said
Yeah.
you've just received, it sounds like if that's the case, that's gonna be decided somewhere else.
Yeah.
We're just trying to decide, is there code violations, or is there violations that are under our purview?
Okay.
And again, as Mr. Matthews would say, we don't fix Purdy, we
Yeah.
just, make sure it's done right. So, I guess we have to rely on some of the testimony and the inspections to see where we go from here. But thank you.
Thank you.
I have a question. What is the city telling you to do to pass inspection?
The only thing the city said, he said for starter, reach out to the manufacturer and see if you can obtain either some kind of engineering report, which I have. I've reached out to them the following day. I sent an email I even asked, I said, I need a point of contact within, not within the sales department of the company that sold us the product. It's the actual manufacturer. And just yesterday, I called and I said, hey, we have a competency board. I need a contact person. And he's like, well, I sent you an email. It's like, I haven't received it. It's like, I'll forward it back to you again. So I made the phone call yesterday. The guy did not answer. It's my setting procedure that I do. Once I called somebody, if you don't answer, I'm going to shoot you a text because I want a record of it, and I took a screenshot of it. So there's never a question that I have contact that person. So I'm waiting for a reply back from the gentleman that I called yesterday. And whether they will provide us with an engineer or refer us to a local engineer, that's to be found out, hopefully by this afternoon or tomorrow. So,
Yeah, so right now, you don't know what to do.
I'm sorry.
So right now, you don't know what to do until you hear.
No,
from-
our hands are tied because we've reached out to the manufacturer multiple times and they're not responding to us.
Yeah.
So, once we get it, and if worst case scenario, if we can't get anybody, then we may have to hire a local engineer to actually look at the manual, look at everything, and tell us what we need to do.
What kind of timetable are you gonna put on that? Because, I mean, at this point, the sextons, they've kind of been, and I get that your hands are tied to a certain degree, but they've been doing this since May. They wanna be done, you wanna be done,
Oh, believe me.
everybody wants to be done. How long are we gonna keep on going?
If I may, Mr. Chairperson, the plan, of course, now that we have received the Arcadia report, like I mentioned, that was just received this week. I received a copy this morning. So the plan is we're going to retain our own inspector / engineer to do the necessary reports, in addition to obtain any reports that we can from the manufacturer about their recommendations and requirements and minimum requirements and such. So that's the plan. The impetus is, of course, to start that process and try to hire an engineer within the next week, and then hopefully they'll be able to go out, perform inspections shortly thereafter, depending, of course, on their own availability.
From me personally and as a business owner, on both sides of the fence, I would want this project to be done as quickly as possible.
I
And there be
totally agree with
no
you.
delays, no stalling, no nothing. Just hurry up and get it done because you need to make them whole at the end of the day.
I understand, the longer you wait, the more
The worse
people
it's
get
gonna
upset.
get.
Yes, absolutely. I agree with you. So we will try to expedite as fast as we can. Timeline, it just depends on, we're about to reach holiday season, trying to get an engineer, hire them, coordinate all that, and hopefully we're not in their way while they're having wedding venues or Christmas, functions and stuff like that, so.
So I think we're back to the thing that there is some civil thing that may take place outside of the scope that we have here. And our two things in front of us is D4, violation of state and local building code or laws, and D9H, failure to supervise. If we take them one by one, violation of state, local building code or laws, do you guys feel like that they have reached a point to where that is violating, or is this a work in progress still to where,
I don't see, I can't see at this point in time that code section would apply. We don't have any, building inspectors going out to look at it. We've got the one report that was rescinded, so that's still pending. So at this point in time, again, me personally, I don't believe code section 18-37 D4 applies.
Is that a motion?
So that's a motion coming from me.
I think Mr. Ronnie had some information. Here's Michael. Mr. Ronnie, do you have your microphone?
Which one is that? Can we
first
pull up,
one.
can we pull that up on the screen,
Can you
please?
pull up the investigation report?
Yeah, thank you.
The first one there, the violation of state, of local building codes or laws.
And that was in reference to the failure to obtain the appropriate inspection after it was rescinded. So that's where we're sitting at, is they don't have a passing inspection.
But is it a violation or is it a active situation that has just not been remedied yet? That's the thing we have to decide here today.
If that's still the motion, I'll second it.
Is that the motion, Mr. Davis?
That's the motion.
Okay,
And I emphasize at this time.
at this time, yeah. Any discussion? We have a motion and a second on the table here. Any discussion?
I just have a clarifying question. So you're saying at this point, because it's not a violation, but they don't have a passed, a permit that has been passed at this point. So it's still not a violation because they're still working on it.
Well, if they had an inspection that passed, but then it was rescinded,
Right.
so
So now they don't have it.
now they don't have it.
Right.
But that doesn't mean they can't get it. The inspector went out, and from what I read, the inspector's report, and that is that based on the information that he discovered, that it did not meet it. But there was an agreement with Freeman Roofing at that point that they would meet what the inspector said. In the process of trying to meet that, if I bottle this thing up, in the process of trying to meet that, there's been other things discovered now that perhaps might not be. So now that we have this report, now we're gonna have two councils getting together to figure out which report which to decide.
Okay.
But it's still fluid, is this correct?
And I've got a question after you.
So I guess, again, from the non-contractor over here.
Sure.
Is there not a time limit on how long these things stay open? And, I mean, they can stay open till infinity before, and nobody does anything?
So 180 days is what
You have
it
to do an inspection.
have to do an inspection, or it's the permit will go out, is this correct?
That's correct. So you have 180 days from the last action to make correction, and then the permit would expire. Now, keep in mind, this is City of Pensacola. I'm not that familiar with their processes. I don't know if they have a reinstatement or an extension process. I assume that they do because we do. But it's 180 days from the last action.
Okay.
And
If-
from, you want to go ahead?
I was just gonna ask to clarify, are you saying that it's premature at this time?
Yes.
Okay.
And the reason being is because they rescinded their final. They haven't applied any code violations, from my understanding. If it is, I'm not aware of the city going in and saying, these are your code violations.
So the rescission was based on deficiencies. So those deficiencies cited by the city need to be corrected.
Right.
And they have a time period in which to correct them.
Correct.
But do we have a copy of what the city says that the deficiencies are?
It was in the, yes, it was in the,
Synopsis? What was it?
it's, let's see, go down to where it says, I saw it somewhere yesterday. The
Roof
cities, there you go, right there.
No, this is not it.
I think there was something from the city.
The Sextons did provide a video of that meeting, a recorded
That's right,
of
that's
that
right,
meeting.
that's right.
It's in the H drive.
But again, nothing in writing showing that there was code violations.
I have an email from the city in writing, from Jonathan Bilby.
Can she read that?
Is, Ms. Sexton, is that something that you provided to me? Would it, because I put all that in
He
here.
just sent it to me.
Okay. He just submitted it.
Ms. Sexton, if you'll come to the podium or Mr. Sexton, if you'd like to come read it into the record, please.
Please slow down when you read.
Yes.
Thank you for coming up to the thing.
All right, this is from Jonathan Bilby with the city. Good morning. Per Tony, the following items were discussed at the on-site meeting with Freeman Roofing. Number 1, correct the roof boots to comply with the manufacturer's specifications. Number 2, fix all flashing to comply with the manufacturer's specifications. Number 3, clean all rust off roof. Number 4, add closure strips at end of roof and top of roof per manufacturer specifications. Number 5, have a licensed structural engineer evaluate the existing roof to verify if existing roof deflection is acceptable for roof panels and roof loads are acceptable for the retrofit panel additional weight. Report to be submitted to Pensacola Building Inspections prior to roof final inspection. Number 6, schedule final inspection to verify all items correct. And that says, regards, Jonathan Bilby.
Thank you. That's what we're looking for, the consolidates it down, which again goes that it's an open, active, as long as they complied, then, and of course, there's a new report now, but as long as they complied, the city could then come back and do another inspection, right, Mr. John? They could come back and do another inspection and then decide at that point. Okay.
And did they only send that email to you, or did they send it to the Freemans? And
It looks like to everybody.
Okay.
No, sorry, Chloe, Stephanie, Tony, and inspections. So I don't know if he sent it to them. No, they have not sent it to them yet.
Okay.
Can you send it to Ms. Reber, please?
Yes. And one thing too is like we went ahead with Arcadia. You know, this has been going on for now 5 weeks that we were told to get the engineer approval letter. They aren't making any action. It's like we got Arcadia, we hired Arcadia, they came out, they've done the report. I don't understand what engineer they're trying to hire that's gonna delay it for another month. It's like, there are people that can come out and look at the roof.
I understand, but we have to let the due process work.
Definitely,
It's
definitely.
It's frustrating.
Yes, sir.
Depending on which side you're on, it's probably frustrating for both, but.
Yes, sir.
We do have to let the due process work there, so.
Perfect. All right.
So we'll have a motion on the floor that this is not applicable at this time?
At this time, yes.
At this time?
I think she's got it.
And it's been second, and any other discussion?
I got one thing. We were talking about 180 days. If you go 90 days without doing anything, isn't that abandonment?
That's correct. So 90 days with no action is deemed abandonment by county ordinance.
I think it probably applies to the city too.
It does.
So, but I just wanted to make that point. Oh, one other thing, now you know what you gotta do.
I go back to clarification. Are you saying dismiss count 1?
Well, no, I don't want to dismiss it because
Okay.
we don't quite know right now if there are any code violations in writing from the city that we have. So
So I think we're deferring it.
yeah, we're deferring it is what I'd like to do is,
Okay, I just wanted the exact language on the
Okay,
record.
okay.
Thank you.
So do I hear the motion that says we are deferring the Code Section 18-37 D4, violation of state and local building codes or laws at this time?
correct.
Second.
Thank you for that.
Thank you for that.
All in favor, raise your right hand. All opposed, like sign. Seeing none, this passes. So the second section is 18-37D9H, failure to supervise construction activities. What's the board's desire for this?
Well, clearly the gentleman did say that, you know, the gentleman that was installing the roof didn't do the correct way that it's supposed to have been, so I would go ahead and again, this is open for discussion, this is not a motion, to go ahead and move forward with that code violation to disciplinary action. But I want to hear the board's discussion on that just a little bit because clearly somebody has to take responsibility. And as a business owner, as Freeman business owner, a lot of us in here business owners, we have employees that will make mistakes. We understand that. And I think if this would have been rectified in a quicker manner, I don't think we would have come to this. Sometimes you just got to bite the bullet and say, hey, let's just get this done. And the longer it sits around and it festers, you know, the more frustration people have, and then we have to make these hard decisions on businesses that have been around for many, many years that we know that are reputable companies. We can't all be at 100%, but at the same time, I'm looking to see if we can get the support to move Code Section 18-37D9 to a disciplinary action.
Any comments?
I would agree with that, to get this thing back in front and make sure they're moving. I think it would be right to move this to disciplinary hearing for Code 18-37D9.
I'll second it, if that was a motion.
So who made the actual motion then?
That was my motion.
Mr. Bell, okay. All right, second. Any discussion? So I think there has been some supervision there. We're basing this on the fact that the work is not done properly, so therefore it was not supervised properly. Is that what we're basing this on?
Correct.
Okay. Just making sure it's clarification. We're not saying there was no supervision, period.
Correct.
It was not supervised properly. Is that, okay. All right, all in favor, to raise your right hand. All opposed, same sign. Seeing none, hearing none, motion's been approved. So we will move the second one to disciplinary hearing. The first one is on hold.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, guys. Okay, moving to the next one.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. John C. Fortner, doing business as Fortner's Home Improvements, Inc., state registered license number RC 29027151, Contractor Competency Board complaint number 2310111, COM. It's in regard to James Scott Cook, doing business as JHB Auto Parts, also known as Napa Auto Parts. The complainant at 9450 North Century Boulevard, Century, Florida 32535. Proper notice was sent to the respondent. Mr. Scott Cook, are you present today? Yes. Thank you. And are you going to provide testimony for this hearing? Yes. Perfect. And Mr. Fortner, are you present today? And are you going to provide testimony for this hearing? Thank you. At this time, I'm going to have the parties sworn in, and just a reminder that Ms. Reber was previously sworn.
Do you solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Yes. Thank you.
Ms. Reber, was a formal complaint filed with the board, and on what date was it filed?
Yes, there was, July 14th, 2023.
And were you able to communicate with the complainant about the case?
Yes, I was.
Were you able to communicate with the respondent about the case?
Yes, I was.
And did the complainant provide supporting documentation for the case, and is it attached to the agenda?
Yes, he did, and it is attached.
And did the respondent provide supporting documentation, and is it attached to the agenda?
He provided a statement.
And were permits obtained? If so, when, and what are their current status?
Yes, they were. A permit was issued on June 30th, 2022, with a failed inspection on October 5th, 2022, and the permit remains in an expired state.
Staff would request at this time that the documentation attached to the agenda as backup be moved into evidence.
So moved.
Second. All in favor, say aye. You won't raise your hand on that one. Sorry. All opposed, raise your left and right hand. Seeing none, motion's passed.
Ms. Reber, were you able to assign any alleged violations to this case? If so, please state each violation and your justification.
Yes, I was. Code Section 1837C1. This is just based on the fact that the permit did fail inspection and has not been corrected. Code Section 1837D8. The roof was not installed correctly. Leads me to believe, I don't, if that came in supervision or the decision of the type of roof to do or the way to put the roof on. Code section 1837D10. The permit failed on October 5th, 2022, and as of today, a year later, there's nothing been done to rectify the situation.
Mr. Cook, this is your opportunity to address the board in regard to your complaint.
My name is Scott Cook from Napa Auto Parts at 9450 North Century Boulevard in Century, Florida. Last year in August, I hired Mr. Fortner through a contract to replace my roof. The contract states that he would remove all existing roof and replace it with a new roof. 2 days into the project, I was working at our store in Milton, and my manager called me. We happened to have a tropical storm of weather for 2 weeks during the project. And he called me to let me know that the store was pouring. To give you an idea, we were pumping about 800 gallons a day out of the stores. Terrible rainstorm. I went to see what was going on. Mr. Fortner was there. They had placed purling on the top of my TPO roof and then began placing metal roofing on top of it. That was not the contract. The contract's fully stated that he was to remove all the existing roof and replace a new roof on it. When I got there, I was desperate. We lost $30,000 worth of parts within a few hours. He said, "This is going to work great. It's going to be fine." And I said, "Please dry me in." And so he finished the job. Of course, it failed inspection. The roof holds water. It still have leaks. I still have tarps hanging up in the building a year later. I lost product last week when it rained. Every time it rains, there's a new leak because wherever the water settles on the metal roof, it goes down to the TPO roofing, which now has tens of thousands of holes in it. So it's gone. He has worked with people to try to come up with a remedy, but each remedy keeps saying that the roof has to be completely replaced. And so it has just been delayed and delayed and delayed. The last thing that he said that they would do, and this is per some of the engineers with the county, is to pull off the roof and put a TPO roof back on it. And I said, yeah, that's great. When we spoke, though, the idea is to roll TPO roofing over the existing TPO roof. And I said, that will be fine too, as long as the manufacturer agrees that this is acceptable, because this old roof has now been saturated in water for a year. I'm still waiting to get a roof. We're still fighting to do business in that store with it every time it rains. We have been very blessed this year to not have a lot of rain. So it's been a very good thing. When it does rain, we put swimming pools all through the store, and we have tarps covering all of the product. We have about $1 million worth of inventory, and we're scared to death. My Federated Insurance Company has warned me that on my next renewal, if I do not get this roof fixed, they will not cover me. And I'm in a holding pattern now for a year. I just want my roof fixed. Thank you.
Mr. Cook, what type of structures underneath? Is these wood trusses that's there?
No, it's
or
metal
something?
trusses, and then it had metal underneath it. The metal underneath it, of course, is old and rusted. That's why I wanted a complete roof replacement. This is a family business, and we're going to be there forever, hopefully.
So these are metal roof joist?
Yes, sir.
That's on the top, okay.
Yeah, and so it's a metal underneath,
Right.
and then it has the
Wood purlins.
styrofoam and the TPO material under it. And now it has purling and metal on top of that.
Gotcha. Any questions anybody has for Mr. Cook at this point? Thank you so much.
Mr. Fortner, it's your opportunity to address the board in regard to the complaint.
All right. I'm John C. Fortner, Fortner's Home Improvements, 580 Hickory Flats Road,
J Florida 32565. First of all, the contract, it's a big confusion, but on a metal roof, just like the one that was just up here. This was actually a roof over. Now, in the contract, my salesman did have in there a metal re-roof. But there's, the way that this roof is, you have a metal truss here, and then on top of that, you have a metal deck. Then you have, I've done a core sample, so that's why I know this. You have 6 inches of white foam, a little white foam. Then you have 2 inches of ISO on top of that, and then a layer of TPO, and then it's been painted several times. And so while I was there, I was there every day. So I was on this job every day from start to finish. And I'll tell you about the storm in just a minute. But so I made the decision to put the purlins down. I did a check on the roof. I ran a string, and you can, there's 2 parts of this roof. There's a section on the back, which is completed and it's done. And to my knowledge, it is not leaking. It's got a 3 or 4 on 12 pitch and it's fine. But then connected here, this other roof is like 100 foot by 100 foot, comes this way. Well, you can see where it comes up like this and then back down. However, it's 1.5 to 2 on 12 pitch, borderline for PBR, R-panel metal, 26 gauge Galvalume. So I run a string across there. And from this edge to this edge, and of course it hits here at the top. I'm the one that made the decision to do metal, and I've told Jim McGowan and I've told Mr. Talbert, hey, this is on me. I was there every day. I would still say to this day that this system would work with the peel and stick. I'm gonna take it back. Tacky tape under the panels, put it down. I really thought this would work. After putting it down and it leaked, I have went back on every seam and on every screw and sealed it with not the spray, but brushed on silicone. It has helped. However, the roof is holding water. So what has to be done is I have to take all this metal off, not this section over here, but just the 100 by 100. It might even be 110, but anyway, take that off. We will have to take off the 2-inch ISO as well, down to the white foam. And then what we're going to do, Jennifer here is my operations manager. She has been working and working, trying to get quotes of a tapered system of where there's 5 scuplers on this roof. Okay, of course we covered over them with this metal roof. When the metal roof comes off, the lathing comes off, what we're going to have to do is reopen these scuplers, and the entire roof will be shaped to go to these scuplers. Now, part of the reason this delay, and nothing, I'm not battering Mr. Cook, he's a good man. We've been in conversation this whole time. And he even called me Friday, and I was out of town, and I haven't called him back, and I apologize. However, he specifically said he didn't want ponding or holding water. Well, any and all flat roofs will hold water up to an extent. Not like this metal roof is holding water. This is crazy what this roof is doing, the way it's holding water. But once all this is off and these drains already, the scuplers already come down and then they go to the edges of the building. So it will take the water off just like it was prior to us ever getting there. But we have to take off this TPO that's existing and the ISO, and then do a tapered system, new TPO. I'm looking at Firestone or GAF. Before I make that decision, I will show him both products and let him go with me with the decision on what to do, and that's it. Now, as far as the inside damage, the roof was leaking prior to us getting there. There was tarps up in there prior to us getting there. However, our second or third day of us being there, I mean, I watch radar all the time, but this storm popped up out of nowhere. We had a 10 by 10 tent on the roof. It slings it off the roof. Metal flies off the roof that we had up there on the lull. and it rained bad. We did put a tarp over this section, but there was nothing we can do. So there is a claim in with my insurance company. Last time I talked to Cincinnati Insurance, they are needing, and they might have it now, I don't know. It's been a few weeks, but they're needing all the paperwork from him showing proof of what, an itemized list of what's been damaged, so they can settle with him. They will settle with him just as soon as this roof is complete and it passes inspection. And it will, I promise. And I apologize to him for this. I've never been in here. I was a deputy for 10 years, and I have testified in some big trials, and I'm more nervous right now than I have been on any of them, because this is my livelihood. And, but that's all I have.
I have a qualifying question. At the beginning of this, you said, or I can't remember now who said what, but you said that your invoice says that you would remove all the TPO entire roof building off the entire roof, and then it also says you remove all existing metal roofing. Then you said you guys didn't do that, and so
correct.
The paperwork, this is what the signed proposal says you were supposed to do.
Yep.
But now you're saying that's not what you did.
And what I should have done when I talked to Mr. Cook that day at the job about what I was gonna do, I should have done a new contract with him, and I did not. That's on me. That's my fault. However, once I get there and there's literally, trusses, metal deck, and there's this much of roof built up between all the foam and TPO. I mean, if we took all of this stuff down to here, well, there's walls over here on the side like this. I mean, you couldn't do that without building all that foam back up to replace all of this foam, 6, 8, it'd be 8 inches of foam to go on there on top of the old deck. So while I was there installing it, and I made a verbal with him, and in my opinion, at that time, it went from, instead of a metal re-roof, it went to a roof over. And yes, that should have been put in writing, and it was not. So.
And my only other question is, what, this is dated May of last year, so 2022, why is it taken this long at this point? Why is it taking this long at this point for you guys to get to a
We
point
roofed
that
it
we
in
fixed it?
September of last year is when we roofed it.
Oh, because this is dated May of 24th of 2022, this contract.
Well, I had to go to City of Century to get approved. It took a little bit to get the permit, and then once
So
we
when
got
did you actually start work?
September.
Of?
It was actually late August.
Of
August or
22
September.
or 23?
22.
Okay, so we're still a year later at this point.
Yes. But I have been there working on it since when we finished in October and it failed inspections. I have been there working on it, doing things since then. But it will be fixed, I promise. It will be fixed before the end of the year. And he will be dry, and then he can settle up with insurance, and this will be behind us. I assure you of that.
When you say it will be fixed, what?
Completed, pass inspection with the county.
What do you plan to do to remedy this? What does fix mean to you?
Not on the part that's over here, but the part that comes from here this way, the 100 by 100 section over the main store. The back part is like a repair shop or something, but just over the Napa part, removing the existing metal that I put down, removing the TPO, removing the 2 inches of ISO, and then installing a tapered system of TPO, and then, a tapered system of ISO, and then new TPO. Yep. And then we can call for a final inspection with the county. It'll then pass, and then he can settle up with the insurance company.
I do want to add something as well.
You haven't been sworn.
Yes, and please state your name in a moment. My name is. Swear that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. Yes, I do. My full name is Jennifer, and it's actually spelled Yenenifer.
Last name is Panizo, P-A-N-I-Z as in zebra O. And I'm actually Foreigner's Operations Manager. I also do as well hold a state certified roofing contractor's license. That's why I'm in that position. The fact that my boss is actually not just putting 2-inch ISO like it was previously existing, you know, we have talked about Napa way too much. And as having the license since 2011, I can confidently say as well that, hey, you know, taper system will be the proper solution of this. And even though, as we all know, our price is gonna be substantially more than what our contract was, because we wanna do it right. We wanna put this all behind us, and it's not just gonna be existing and, you know, pool the areas. We wanna make sure that it works, and it's functioning, and it's draining where it needs to go, instead of just accumulating here and there. So that's something that my boss is actually doing, and I just wanted to explain between the tapered and the normal just 2-inch ISO, which is just a flat, you know, 2-inch insulation board. So we're actually taking all that additional cost, which is substantial, just because the installation alone is over $49,000 a quote that we have. Now, when we're also dealing with commercial, any lead time, all of that will have to be delivered directly into the job site, since a lot of the warehouse do not carry the amount of installation that we're needing and all the pieces that need to kind of like be to be able to kind of like make this happen. And before we actually go ahead and like do this, we need to make sure that everybody's in agreement, and upon completion of this job, that we're gonna actually get paid once we have the final inspection, because there's still funds pending, and we do need a new updated NOC in order to be able to just be in compliance with everything, so. I'm sorry.
So you have any questions for?
Yeah, I've got a few questions.
I know several.
So, have you been paid in full?
No.
No. Okay, so I'm just gonna go, like I did the last case we had, is I'm just gonna go by code sections. So it says that you failed your inspection. Okay, and when was that? What was the date of the failed inspection?
October, I believe.
October 5th of 2022.
Okay. So there is merit there for that code section violation, based on the fact that it's been since that time that there hasn't been any remedies that has been provided to the business owner. And again, this is based on my opinion. Of course, the board can chime in. And then we go back to code section 1837. That's why I asked the question whether or not you've been paid in full or not. Misconduct causing financial harm to the customers. We've listened to your testimony. You're not knowing what your solution is going to be, how quick your solution is going to be, and I hear you saying that it's going to be additional cost to the re-roof. You know, you had an opportunity to fix a roof. You know, you provided a quote, you provided the process and method of redoing that roof. The roof is still leaking. I can, again, as a business owner, I can sympathize going into my client and hoping that, you know, every time I make a mistake, they'll repay me to redo that mistake.
I'm not asking.
Let me finish. Yeah. So you have to be a little mindful of that. That, hey, wait a minute, we have to remedy this situation. I look at it from this side of the board that I sit on, is that how do we make both parties successful and whole? And the only way we can do that is to hold people accountable for their actions. So on the misconduct and causing financial harm, I'm gonna hear out my colleagues on here and see what direction they feel to go. Abandonment, again, I don't know when the last time you guys have talked, but when you hear a year, that's a long time. You know, and I'm not sure why this case didn't come to us 3 months or 6 months from now. But it's here now, so that's kind of like my opinion on what direction I will go on these code violations, and I'll open it up to the board.
Anybody else have any comments?
Can I add something?
Certainly.
Okay, with what I mentioned in regards to the lead time, because of being commercial and because of the size, It's not something that I can go and get fixed tomorrow, because even though I will drive through all ABCs and all suppliers in town, I know that they will not be able to give me the amount of material that I need. So that's where I'm saying that it might, be 3-4 weeks, like lead time and all stuff before they can actually deliver the materials to the job site. But we wanna make sure that Mr. Cook is also okay with that.
I think we understand that. I think maybe one thing I'm hearing and sensing is that this has been a long time, and just today we're hearing this remedy plan. Why was this remedy plan not put together way back before? Is this remedy plan only because the Cooks have proceeded to this point? Then why wasn't it done before now? Why are we even here? If we have a game plan, why was this not implemented before we reached this point? That's a question.
In regard to the abandonment, I've talked to him, every month, March, April, May.
So abandonment has to do with somebody working on the job site, if I'm not mistaken with the code, as actually physically being on there, not just simply sending a text or email. So would that be applicable that no one was on the site for the last, say, 90 days consecutive? Is that?
Correct.
Okay,
yes.
so that's abandonment, in a sense of what we have to look at for the code deal.
Yeah, I do have a letter from Melissa for the permit to reinstate it, but I've got to put on there what product we're gonna use. I don't know if I'm gonna use GAF or Firestone yet, so.
And I'm thankful that you've got a game plan. This don't misread this is good. This is good news for Mr. Cook to know that this is gonna be taken care of. At the same time, the question is, why wasn't this done way back then so that we wouldn't be here today? Was it just because we were hoping it would quit leaking, or I mean, what?
I have no response.
Okay. I'm not trying to pin you. I'm just
Yes, sir.
trying to
I
figure
mean,
out
yeah.
why we.
Yeah, after it failed inspection, it continued leaking. Like I say, I've been up there, sealed all the screws. I'm talking this was taking 4 or 5 days to do this, because this is a big job. Sealed all the screws, sealed all the seams. It leaked again. I had foam seal come out, foam seal the entire ridge all the way down. Then we painted all of that with foam. They foamed several areas, and we painted all that with silicone, the paint silicone. So, so it's not like we just left it and haven't done anything. We have been back, but we do need to get over there and finish it and get it behind us.
We were also advised to schedule that final inspection to see by the insurance company, I believe it was.
Yes.
So that's why it's been so long. Because when the initial claim for the interior damages were raised to the insurance company, they actually advised us to call in a final. And then it would not so we've been dealing since that moment. That's why it's been basically October of last year.
So it's taken a year for the
It was
insurance
past
company to,
October.
Yes.
I worked on it in November and December.
of last year. So November, December last year was the last time physically somebody was on the site.
Excuse me, Mr. Cook would like to.
That sounds good.
Sorry.
I just want to make sure we,
No, sir, I've been there this year. I've been on the job this year. There was a
August 26th.
tornado or something, and anyway, there was some foam that got cracked along an edge, so I went out and looked at it, so.
You actually uploaded photos. We do have an electronic system that's how we
Yeah.
actually.
Yeah, I have pictures of it August 21st of this year
Of this
also.
year, of that.
so from December to August, there was not a lot of activity or no activity. I'm not pinning you. I'm just
Oh,
trying
yeah,
to
yeah.
make
Yes,
sure
sir.
we do our job here with proper diligence.
Can we hear from Mr. Cook?
Yeah, I want, so if y'all don't mind, just
Okay.
step over to the side. Mr. Cook, come to the podium, please.
I just wanted to qualify about the insurance, as far as that goes. His insurance agent told me that he did not want anything from me until the roof was finished, because he would not do anything until the roof was finished. Again, I had about $300 worth of damage to water pumps after the rain last week. we thought that that was a dry section. It had been for all this time, and then that happened to be the place where it settled and began leaking. And so that's why that insurance company, they're not going to do anything with me until my roof is finished. I just wanted to make that statement.
Okay.
So is that your insurance company that you've reached
Yes,
out to?
that's his insurance company, yes.
Okay,
Ben, yeah.
okay.
And-
So that
and he
insurance,
said-
One thing, tell me something different. He told me
Wait a minute.
waiting on papers
Yeah.
from him, and I said, I promise you they'll get you wherever you need, so.
so is that insurance company gonna make you whole? And,
I'm hoping so. Also, I wanted to qualify this. When he came in to do the roof job, he said that there were tarps up in my roof. I have photographs of my store. I had every single tile was in place. There was only 4 corners of the building. 3 of them had leaks. That's why. And the roof needed to be replaced. But 3 places in the corner of the roof were leaking. All of my tiles were in place, and I have photographs of every one of all of it, before and now after, with no tiles. And so the insurance company's aware of it, but they're not going to do anything until this thing is finished, and that's where I'm stuck, waiting on this. That's why I'm here.
I'm for moving this to disciplinary hearing so we can see what happens between here, now and then. They'll have a chance to work on things and we can rehash it at disciplinary hearing. I don't know what the flavor of the board is, but that's my suggestion.
Would that be on all 3 charges, Mr. Bell?
Yeah, I could make a motion to move all the alleged violations to disciplinary hearing. Is that acceptable?
So what you're, fine, so it's a motion for probable cause to move to disciplinary.
Yes.
I'll second that.
Okay, I have a motion and a second on the floor to move the alleged violations into disciplinary hearing. Do we have any discussion from anybody on the board? No discussion. So this would mean that this is moving to a disciplinary hearing. They would let you know in advance next month.
So what we'll do is get an administrative complaint out in regard to the proposed violations. And they will need to provide updates. That administrative complaint will have a notice of disciplinary hearing and when that will take place. And hopefully you'll have an update for us before then.
Okay, so all in favor, raise your right hand. Opposed, same sign. Seeing none, hearing none, motion has been approved. Thank you, guys.
Our next item is Jonathan C. Harrington, DBA REO Construction and Repairs, LLC, State Registered License Number RR 28281219, Contractor Competency Board Complaint Number 2309100 COM. It's in regard to Anthony Rojas, the homeowner complainant at 3860 and 3900 Ashcraft in Century, Florida 32535. Proper notice was sent to the respondent. Mr. Rojas, are you present today? And are you going to provide testimony to this hearing? Thank you. And Mr. Harrington, are you present today? And are you going to provide testimony for this hearing today? Thank you. At this time, I'm going to have both parties sworn in, and just a reminder, Ms. Reber was previously sworn.
Do you solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Yes. Thank you.
Ms. Reber, was a formal complaint filed with the board, and on what date was it filed?
Yes, there was, September 11th, 2023.
And were you able to communicate with the complainant about the case?
Yes, I was.
Were you able to communicate with the respondent about the case?
Yes, I was.
Did the complainant provide any supporting documentation, and is it attached to the agenda?
He did, and yes, it's attached.
Did the respondent provide any supporting documentation, and is it attached to the agenda?
He did, and it's attached.
Were permits obtained? If so, when and what are their current status?
A permit was retained for a alteration on March 30th, 2023. no inspections were ever performed. The contract between the parties was terminated on October 26th, 2023, so the permit was in now a contract terminated status.
Staff would request that the documentation attached to the agenda as backup be moved into evidence.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, raise your right hand. All opposed, same sign. Seeing none, hearing none, motion approved.
Ms. Reber, were you able to assign any alleged violations to this case? If so, can you please state each violation and your justification?
Yes, I was. Code Section 1837C11. This was a HUD loan. This work had to be signed off by the contractor and a HUD inspector, that the work was performed correctly and in accordance with all regulations, and that the work was not inspected. Code Section 1837D9B. Allegedly, Mr. Harrington did rewire on, there's 2 homes on this property, completely rewired one of the homes. And in speaking with Mr. Harrington, he also replaced a small section of roofing. Although it would not have required a permit, it would have required a roofing contractor to do the work. Because of the small size, it wouldn't have required a permit. Code Section 1837D9D. This relates back to rewiring the home and doing the roof work. Code Section 1837D9H. In a statement from Mr. Harrington, I believe it's in an email as well, spoke about his workers doing the work, and it was not up to his standard, so he was going to redo that work. Code Section 1837D9J. Mr. Harrington's contract does not contain the proper verbiage advising the homeowner of the Florida Construction Recovery Fund. Code Section 1837D12B. This also relates back to the work being signed off, submitted to the mortgage company for monetary draws where the work was not performed. Code Section 1837D15. Proceeding on the job, there were no electrical permits or the roofing permit for those additional work done. And also no inspections done on the alteration permit.
Mr. Rojas, this is your opportunity to come to the podium and address the board in regard to your complaint.
So in August of 22, I bought a home in Century, Florida, through a 203K rehab loan, with a scheduled completion date of February 2023. In this project, we had a HUD consultant representing both me and the bank, and a contractor named Mr. Harrington. Regrettably, my first mistake was hiring Mr. Harrington on recommendation of the HUD consultant. As it turned out, the consultant and the contractor had a previous working relationship, and later in a verbal statement to me that he and the HUD consultant are now business partners, raising concerns of the conflict of interest certifications signed prior to the contract.
Excuse me, did we name an address? I don't know if that was.
I was about to stop him.
Okay,
Thank you,
thank you.
Mr. Bill. Mr. Rojas, just state your full name and address for the record.
Anthony Rojas, 3860 Ashcraft Road, Century, Florida.
Thank you.
Throughout the project, the consultant had signed off on work done by Mr. Harrington, and I would later discover it shouldn't have been paid based on missing permits, poor workmanship, and overall incompleteness. Each time a draw happens, it requires the contractor and consultant to sign a statement pretty much stating that it was done to the best workmanship. I'm not sure if I provided you guys with the draw paperwork, but is it okay for me to submit that?
Has it been submitted?
There is some paperwork in there, but this morning, Mr. Rojas advised that he, pardon me, doesn't believe I have this document.
I submitted paperwork with regard to all of the draws that were paid out, but not the specific, not each specific draw.
And, excuse me, Board, he may just want to testify to it. I don't think you have a actual copy of it, correct?
I have copies of each draw except for draw 4.
No, but not with you.
Not with me on my phone. I can email it.
If you could go ahead and email it to her at some point, so we'll have it on record.
Right, thank you.
Thank you.
The consultant is a master electrician and signed off on the entire home rewire completed by Mr. Harrington, who is not licensed to do the work. No permits were pulled concerning the rewire completed in November of 2022 until October of 2023 by Selectricity. Mr. Harrington reassured me throughout this that this work was on the up and up. The plumbing repair was specified to replace any remaining iron supply lines with PEX or CPVC. Payment was made for these services. However, upon inspection, it was observed that there was still remaining iron supply lines. And this discrepancy was never mentioned to me. Regarding the roofing repair, it was initiated through a change order and entailed fixing a section of roof above the new bathroom. It's worth noting that Mr. Harrington lacks a necessary roofing license for this type of work. Also, should the replacement of the rotted wood in the ceiling have been permitted and inspected? With regard to the structural work, no engineering plans were made. Only 100 square foot of subfloor is listed on the permit. The rest, not listed. The work was completed by Mr. Harrington and his subs, both with and without his supervision. After repair, the floors were more uneven than before. In the kitchen, the original contract stipulated that the replacement of the rotted 6x6 beam under the house, and it is believed that the joists were also replaced along with the subfloor. However, no permits or inspections were obtained for this work. Additionally, a new doorway was cut out that may have weakened the structure, again, without structural plans. The back door, hallway, existing bathroom, I believe this required new subfloor and or beams and or joists, after which LVP was laid over these floors prior to any inspections or permits. Mr. Harrington claimed that I independently hired his subcontractors for the structural work. This statement is inaccurate. There's a second contract between Mr. Harrington and I that clearly outlines the intended direction of the work. On multiple occasions, Mr. Harrington communicated that he lacked the funds to continue with the project. In response, I made a payment directly to his subcontractors to cover the paint work at 3860 Ashcraft. Furthermore, Mr. Harrington and I agreed that I would provide funds to cover the remaining materials required for the structural work. And I hope that this doesn't change anything with regard to Mr. Harrington being the ultimate recipient of the funds for the specified work. I became suspicious of the work due to the uneven floors, so I contacted the lender in order to perform a compliance inspection. The HUD consultant declined. The lender then ordered a compliance inspection via a third-party appraiser, and that is attached as part of the evidence. The report didn't detail what couldn't have been seen, so I hired the same third-party, the same inspector that reviewed the house the first time when I purchased the home. And he highlighted much of the poor workmanship that I had grown suspicious of. That's also attached to the evidence. In order to validate the statements on the structural work, I hired a state-certified structural engineer to review the work, and their report is attached as well. The initial completion date for the renovation was set for February of 2023, but it became evident that Mr. Harrington would not meet this deadline. Multiple inspections or multiple extensions were required due to his sporadic attendance, often limited to just one day every 2 or 3 weeks. Given these circumstances, I made the decision to terminate Mr. Harrington due to breach of contract, as specified in the first termination letter submitted by my attorney. On September 12th, Mr. Harrington received a notice instructing him to complete all construction work and obtain necessary permits by October 5th. However, during this time frame, he only showed up for work on 3 days. Following this, we granted him an additional extension until October 31st, with the condition that he diligently work to complete all remaining tasks. Unfortunately, he failed to do so, only showing up one day between October 5th and October 24th. This situation led me to instruct my attorney to officially terminate the contract between Mr. Harrington and myself. And this termination was delivered on the morning of October 25th. Additionally, it might be worth mentioning that the estimates for the work that I have are coming in over $70,000. That's it.
Thank you, Mr. Ross.
Mr. Harrington, this is your opportunity to address the board in regard to the case.
Excuse me.
If you could state your name and address, thank you.
Jonathan Harrington, 5839 Elaine Avenue, Milton, Florida, 32583. Company name REO Construction. I heard you say when you announced it DBA Construction or something like that during the beginning. I just want to clarify that.
You do business as REO Construction and Repairs LLC?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Okay, good to go. All right, so I took on this job. I got a phone. I quit doing these bank jobs. My last one was in Crestview. And I didn't want to do any more of these bank jobs because they tell you one thing and they give you something else. I got a call from Joe asking me to look at this one. He said this is a new buyer. He's a nice guy. And everyone he's getting is bidding him high. For simple drywall work, they wanted like 25 grand or something like that. So I went through his punch list and inspection reports and gave him the best deal possible. Did I do the rewire on his brick house? Yes. The two electricians, him and his realtor, originally gave me with quotes. Well, what they wanted to do, one of them wanted to do was pull all the drywall, plaster walls off and finish it that way. That was not in the budget. So we shopped around, trying to find somebody who would be in budget to do this. Couldn't get anyone out there. Mr. Rojas was staying in temporary Airbnbs, and he asked me to, see what I could do to pursue this. Well, I got in touch with a new electrician, as I thought it was an electrician. He was not licensed, but he was able to pull permits, and he had, as I noticed recently during the last speaking with Melissa, that the permits he pulled were 2 different names. I never even looked at that. 2 different companies. Well, the deal was I would go ahead and because I worked for Webster Electric for many years. I had my own electrical construction company in Yuma, Arizona, as well as North Carolina. I spent 14 years in the Marine Corps, got a federal certification as an electrician in government jobs, military bases and so on. So I went and I was only supposed to run the devices, or run the electrical, put in the boxes, and they would come and hook up devices. Well, he kept pushing me back. Mr. Rojas was in a hurry to get in there, so I went ahead and closed everything up, and then he was supposed to come back out, inspect everything, make sure everything was good. Did I do it? Yes, I don't deny it. I don't deny what I did. I was trying to make sure we stayed within budget with Mr. Rojas, and if you look at my track record with all these bank jobs I do, which is why I'm getting out of them, I always stayed within budget, even if I didn't make anything off it. This accusation about being in business with Joe, not a fact at all. Not a fact at all. Have I hired him on other jobs that I had that were not banks? Yes. And vice versa for me. That's not being in business together. That's doing business, I'm sure, as all you would do. As for the accusation about the contracts, we had 2 change orders, and we had the original contract. The first change order was for the roof. And on that note, I've looked through the Florida Building Code, I've looked through the Escambia Building Code, and I cannot seem to find a reference other than 4 squares of roof does not require a permit. But nowhere can I find that it say it has to be done by a roofing contractor. I even talked to other inspectors, and by the look on Melissa's face the day that Jonathan Bello had made that mention, she was surprised too. So, I don't really see how I'm in violation of something when it's been a common practice here in the city and multiple counties for violating that one. Anyways, back to the contracts. We had a second change order written back in April that I didn't want to pursue it until after it got approved, or to proceed with this change order until it got approved. Well, somehow he convinced me. I went ahead and pulled out the kitchen cabinets, which was in the second change order, and started getting that stuff prepped. We got the floor pulled up, put that back in. It was annotated on my permit. Yes, it only says approximately 100 square feet. I talked with Jonathan Bello that day, and it's in an email here that I sent off to everyone after that meeting we had, and said that would suffice for that. Nowhere in my contract, my change order, or was there ever a written change order to do the hallway and the bathroom. The bathroom, I got called in on the phone asking if you should change that, and I said, you're opening a can of worms, you change that bathroom floor out, because you have a tile shower pan. I was like, I can't guarantee they're going to be able to fix that. Now, as for hiring my workers to do it, to bring that to clarify that understanding, I was not doing any markup on the labor cost for my workers there. They gave them a quote. They said they do it for $800, and I said that's fine. If whatever's left in the surplus, which I have a separate signed letter from Mr. Rojas from doing these changes for, and understanding between me and him, that anything that's not covered in the surplus for the leftovers from the second change order for doing the kitchen, for doing the LVP flooring throughout the house, I would pay them that money, and whatever's left, he would have to pay out of his own pocket. So that's where I was trying to explain to where he did hire them on his own, but I would make sure they did it right. I was trying to do him a favor. I'm not here to rip anybody off. Never had the intention of. As for the permits not getting signed off calling inspection, well, speaking with Jonathan Miller, I tried to get everything updated on the permit so we can have that inspected. After I found out that my guys didn't do the job right, you can ask Anthony. I went there, I checked it out. It was confirmed they did not do it right. I had not been up there since they've been up there because I was waiting for the change order to get signed off from the bank. As per the contract with the bank, paragraph 12, I proceeded my own conscience, my own conscience if I don't have the bank, the lending group approve it. So therefore, a $26,000 change order, I could just be out of luck on. So why would I complete that? And that's when we originally put a stop to doing any more work up there. My guys were not supposed to put the LVP down. They were supposed to do the framing for the subfloor, and I was supposed to go up and inspect it. I told them not to continue. Maybe a loss in translation somewhere, but they were saying that they were contacting Anthony, asked me to get up there and finish it, but maybe misunderstood somewhere in there. But I went and I pulled out the hallway, I pulled out the bathroom, I redid the hallway, but did not nail down the subflooring. I'm more than confident it was done to the standard Florida building code, or the existing Florida building code. The bathroom had one section where it had a tree stump across it laid horizontally. Literally a shaved down tree as a beam. I pulled that out, put a 6x6 in there. Following week I met with Melissa and John Billow. Sorry if I messed up his name, I'm not good at pronouncing names. Tried to get that added on there. Took it over to Mr. Walter to have it signed off to add it to the existing permit. To go ahead and add that doorway and that beam to that, because the subfloor was already on there, and annotate we're doing the bathroom subfloor as well as the hallway to make sure everything's covered. Well, he said I needed engineering for that, for replacing a 5-foot beam, 6x6 beam. I've been working diligently since that meeting, emailing. Got a whole list of 34, 35 engineers I've called. And just recently, the day that they sent me that termination letter, I didn't get the termination letter till the evening. I think it came in like 4:26 p.m. And before that, I'd sent off an email and a text message letting that, well, not text message to Anthony. I sent off an email to Anthony letting him know that I finally found an engineer by the name of Josh with Herbert Engineering that was willing to come out there, look at the project and see and write up a report on it to give us direction what needs to be done. I had 2 other engineers that were willing to work off pictures, but were not willing to make the drive out there. I wasn't comfortable with that. I wanted eyes on it to make it look like there was no collusion between me and an engineer saying this stuff is good. As for electrical, well, the last day that I was actually working out there on that subfloor, pulling it up and re-flooring it, I got through to Dustin at Electricity. He had finally called me back. And I've known him quite a few years ago and so on. We've met a few times. And he said, well, I'm doing service calls, but I can be out there later this afternoon/evening. This was I want to say it was on a Saturday. And it was at noon. Well, I told the homeowner that. And they were home all day. But miraculously, they started moving fast to get in their car. And he sent me a text. Hey, so we're going to town. We're not going to be back till really late. I'm like, all right, well, he said it'd probably be after 4. I was like, I'll just stand by and see what happens. He comes back around 8 p.m. I'm still there working away. Dustin already contacted me, said he was on his way. And, well, I told the homeowner, yeah, great time. And Dustin's actually on his way, about 15 minutes out for the GPS. And he's like, oh, all right, good to go. He's like, do I need to let him in or whatever? And it's like, well, yeah, we're going to need to let him in. I mean, I'm going to be here with him, do a walkthrough with him. And he got a little weird, that I was going to be there with him. Like, he wanted only the electrician there. He didn't want me there involved at all. And we went through everything. Dustin found a few issues with things. There was a electrical box that didn't have a green wire nut on it. Every other device, he pulled out about 17 devices. Everything else looked good. Then there was some electrical work done by another electrician that he hired that he pulled down I believe it was a ceiling fan for in the bedroom. He didn't have any Romex connectors in the box or a ground screw, and then he had an incandescent light in the closet that was less than 12 inches from the shelf, so that would have to be changed out to an LED. Well, Dustin was able to get me on the schedule within a week, I believe it was, on the 6th. I want to say it was October 6th. Well, I emailed him beginning of that week. Say, hey, I just need some clarification. This is going to be okay. They're coming out there. Because it was a day after my termination letter had ended for the month of October. October 5th came, he never replied, so I canceled with Dustin and I sent off an email. Then that same day, I get a letter. You got till this day in November now. Couldn't get Dustin back on the schedule for that same day. So I got him back on the schedule for a week or 2 later. Dustin's guys called in sick with the flu or something. I took a screenshot of these pictures. I sent them to Mr. Rojas. Every week I've been giving Mr. Rojas an email update on everything. He has yet to reply to a single email. Isn't that quite coincidental? Isn't that interesting that he doesn't want to reply to anything in writing? I call him on the phone. He doesn't mind answering questions, but he doesn't want to reply to anything in writing. As for the change order was submitted back in April, May, and then June 1st, I believe it was, is when Joe emailed over the change order for the lending group that I signed. But there was one line item added on there for the previous change order, and he said just line item it out. And I did that and forwarded that to Mr. Rojas, and he never would sign it. He would never sign the change order acknowledging it. So how can I proceed with that? At which time I put a stop to it, said we're not working up there till we get this change order situated. I know there's a problem between him and Joe and his concerns with him. As for stuff I was paid for like the siding, they called me out, repairs weren't done. Well, actually, they were done. The HUD inspector did inspect it. You inspected it because you signed off the paperwork. That draw paperwork requires all three of our signatures, including the lender, at the final disposition when it gets up to them. Joe's required to sign it off with pictures. I'm required to sign it, and he's required to sign it. So him to say that he didn't know this stuff wasn't done, you can walk around the house, and the stuff that is not done and broken, it's in clear view. Was it that way when pictures were submitted? No. Do I have pictures? Yes, I do. So there was one piece that was behind the gutter. It looks like the gutter was ripped off and tore off that little section of so am I supposed to go back through and fix stuff after the fact? Then after he had that home inspector there, I had just taken a picture of these little nicks off of this one area by this fence. I go back there the following week after that inspector was there, and now a whole piece of it's broken off. Like the inspector was prying on this stuff, checking it out. Am I supposed to be responsible for all that when that happens? At what point does it end? As for the original contract was pretty much completed out with the exception of a drywall patch in the closet from the electricians. That patch, I admit, that was missed. But all the following on drywall repairs that need to be done, and everything is involved in that second change order that was never able to be completed because I had to jump through hoops to find an engineer, get it reestablished on the, get the permits reapproved for it. So nothing could happen. Am I responsible for any of these extra repairs that he's claiming on his house? No, I am not. I will not be responsible. You have any questions for me?
Yes, let me open the floor here. Anybody have a question for Mr. Rojas or Mr. Harrington?
Not at the moment.
Thank you, Mr. Rojas.
Thank you, gentlemen, for your time.
Or Mr.
And you, ma'am.
Harrington, I'm sorry. We have several violations here alleged.
What type of license does Mr. Harrington,
Registered residential,
is it residential?
Yes, sir, that's correct.
and it says registered, not certified, state certified.
And have we had any prior violations?
We have not.
We have not. It's the first time. Okay. So, we can continue doing what we have been doing. If everybody's okay with it, we can go by each
That's what I
code
was saying,
section
just
and
go by each
discuss
one
it
and
out, and then we can go
Kind
through
of
it.
follow through from there.
All right, so,
First one, 18-37C11, finding that a contractor is guilty of fraud or deceit or gross negligence, competency, or misconduct in the practice of contracting. Does anyone have comments on this particular one?
so we've done an inspection on these houses?
We have not.
We have not, and the job's not completed. It's still in the process?
Right, it's not complete, and now the contract's been terminated between the parties.
But
It's
there's
terminated.
existing permit though.
Yeah, the permit's still open, or is the permit closed?
No, the permit is now contract terminated
Okay, and the contract was terminated by the banks or the?
The owner.
by the homeowner.
By the
Yes, he
homeowners.
has counsel.
Okay. I'm gonna look at the words very carefully. It says fraud or deceit or gross negligence, incompetency or misconduct in practicing of contracting. You yourself admitted that you did some electrical work on the project. And that is, and again, in my opinion, it's kind of misconduct, and it is gross negligence also, because when you're doing electrical without a permit and without the proper authorities checking in to be sure it's done right, ultimately that's a liability not only for the homeowner, but even the area in the event of a fire or some sort of electrical issue. So that's where I'm at on that, so I'm gonna let the board chime in.
Anybody else have a comment on the first violation alleged, C11?
I agree with that.
I concur as well.
So do I have a motion to
Well,
state
I would-
such? Or let's
Let's
just
go through it all.
Let's
then
go
we
through
can
it
do-
first.
Yeah,
We'll-
so
okay.
if we wanna go to the code section two.
So what about D9, contracting beyond the scope of practice allowed by license with no safety hazard? I think this had more to do with the roofing section. And then the next one, a safety hazard has to do with the electrical
Correct.
side.
And both of those, again, I feel it's
Leave
been-
everything there?
Yeah.
Okay. Any other comment? Okay. D9H, failure to supervise construction activities.
Were you on the job yourself, or did you have a supervisor there supervising the job?
Which part are we talking about?
Any part of the job. For instance, if you have a project manager on the job site and he,
Personally, 99% of the time myself, or I had the supervisor there, yes.
okay, so that code violation can state also.
Leave it there?
Leave it, again, if you choose otherwise, I'm looking at it as a supervisor on the job site, you have a certain scope of work. If you go outside the scope of work, then you're not properly managing your activities on that construction job site.
I'm
Anyone
good,
else?
I'm good with that. Keep going.
Okay.
I was good with that. Keep going.
D9J, failure to notify residential property owner of recovery fund based on the contract. That was not included, the verbiage was not included in the contract, right, Ms. Reber?
No, sir, that's not in his contract.
Okay, we'll leave that. D12B, committing fraud or deceit in the practice of contracting causes monetary or other harm to a licensed customer or physical harm to any person.
I'm gonna ask for some comment on that from my colleagues here. The part on contract committing fraud and deceit, I think, Mr. Rojas mentioned that there was fraud, but deceit. I don't really know if we can substantiate deceit, because we don't know the intent of both of the individuals at that time or what it entails. So I'm okay with parking that.
I would agree. I'm trying to figure out what's the difference between the 12 and 11 of 1837.
Correct.
So if we leave 11, I would be for removing 12.
12 has to do with the monetary and the physical harm versus that was a little more broad scope.
Correct.
So at this point, remove 12B.
I'm okay with that.
Anybody else want to?
I agree.
Okay. D15B, proceeding on any job without obtaining applicable local building permits and/or inspections. I think
That's been established.
was established, yeah. So I will entertain a motion to proceed to disciplinary action on all of the alleged violations with the exception of Code Section 18-37 D12B.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? No discussion. All in favor, raise your right hand. All opposed, same sign. Seeing none, hearing none, motion is carried. Everything except 18-37 D12B. Thank you, gentlemen. Ms. Jennifer?
Yes, sir. Our next item is Mark S. Ard, doing business as Pinnacle Contractors LLC, state certified license number CRC 1327743. Contractor Competency Board complaint number 230997. COM. It's in regard to Ralph and Dawn Parnell, the homeowner complainants at 9040 Brunson Road, Pensacola, Florida 32514. Proper notice was sent to the respondent. Ms. Parnell, are you present today?
Yes.
And are you going to provide testimony for this hearing?
Yes.
And Mr. Ard, are you present today? And are you going to provide testimony for this hearing? At this time, I'm going to have the parties sworn in, and just a reminder that Ms. Reber was previously sworn.
Do you solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
Apologies. Ms. Reber, was a formal complaint filed with the board, and on what date was it filed?
Yes, there was, September 12th, 2023.
Were you able to communicate with the complainant about the case?
Yes, I was.
And were you able to communicate with the respondent about the case?
Yes, I was.
Did the complainant provide any supporting documentation, and is it attached to the agenda?
Yes, they did, and it is attached.
And did the respondent provide any supporting documentation, and is it attached to the agenda?
He did, and it's attached.
Were permits obtained? If so, when, and what are their current status?
There was a permit issued for an alteration on April 13th, 2022, with a framing inspection passed on January 27th, 2023. And the permit is currently expired.
Staff would request that documentation attached to the agenda as backup be moved into evidence.
So moved.
Motion, second.
I'm sorry, who moved? And who
Do
seconded?
you have a second?
Second.
All in favor, raise your right hand. All opposed, same sign. Seeing none, hearing none. Motion carried.
Ms. Reber, were you able to assign any alleged violations to the case? If so, please state each violation and your justification.
Possibly 1837 D13C3. There was a time that this property was not secured due to a window not in place. However, at the time, late on Friday, Mr. Ard submitted some additional documentation, further explaining that his responsibility was not the windows, that it was the Parnell's responsibility to install. However, he did do that because their installer didn't. So I'll let the Parnells elaborate a little bit more on how that transpired.
Mr. and Ms. Parnell, this is your opportunity to come to the podium and address the board in regard to the case. Just, if you can state your name and address, thank you.
Good morning. My name is Ralph Parnell. My address is 9040 Brunson Road. You'll have to forgive my voice. I've been fighting this cold. Having never done one of these hearings before and hearing your previous advice of don't come back, I'm hoping that I can practice that as well. I'm assuming that you've all read the letters and the complaints and the responses that have been put forward. Okay. Then I don't need to go paragraph by paragraph, if you guys are familiar with that, and going on the specific allegation as was just described. That window, Mr. Ard may be correct on that. However, we had other external doors that he installed that were unable to be secured. The first one was the door that enters from the driveway into the kitchen. To this day, we still have not been able to get to lock properly because it's just not installed right. We had two sets of double doors that were installed that were not installed correctly. So you can push on them, and you can lock down one side, but when you push on them, they still will move. So flashing is not there, and there's some other problems with the installation that have kept us from being able to fully secure the house. So putting the window aside, I'll concede that point. But the door installations are a problem. And if I could elaborate just a little bit more, I would really like to thank Ms. Reber, because this is all new to my wife and I, and she's been fantastic in not only communication. I emailed her this morning at about around 6 and had a response before 8. So I really appreciate her professionalism on this. The reason really that we filed this is that we were left without a kitchen for almost 6 months before we terminated the services. I would say we terminated the contract, but he was already in breach by that point. So there are really 2 points. One is that breach, but first is just the utter failure of communication between Pinnacle and us. We're just trying to get answers. Where are we on this project? Because at first, those permits on April 13th, Pinnacle was all over our property for weeks. I mean, the demolition was rather impressive. And then, there were things that were done up until around September when the existing kitchen was gutted. And that's when things demonstrably slowed down. So we had been promised at the beginning that once the wall and the existing kitchen came down, things are going to speed up, but in fact, it was the exact opposite. I'm not talking too fast, am I? Okay. And so we were left with an air fryer, a hot plate, and microwave for our functioning kitchen through holidays and birthdays and things like that, which may not seem like a big deal, but our son was in his senior year in high school, and we were trying to do, family things before he went off to school. So that was a big deal. It got to the point where the only communication we were having was the occasional text between Mr. Ard and my wife on things. On November 14th, I sent a Dear Mark letter, just saying, hey, meet with us, please, and just let us know where we are. Because in the beginning, he had promised us this will be done in 90 days. Well, it wasn't anywhere close, and that's fine. I mean, he's busy, I understand. But his contract that we signed said that there would be substantial completion within 180 days. So if, from the pulling of the permits, April 14th. So that puts us somewhere, mid-October, all right? So on November 14th, I sent a letter certified to make sure he got it, asking him, among other things, please meet with us, and pointing out that he was in breach of contract already. We got no response. We got no meeting. In fact, he didn't pick up the certified letter, but I also sent one regular mail to his home address, which is also his office, where we had sent the certified letter. So I'm assuming he got that letter. And again, we heard nothing. So we said this project's dead in the water. People were coming by every few weeks enough that I'm not alleging abandonment, because having read the appropriate statutes, 90 days, and I'm not alleging that. There were people trickling by doing what, I'm not sure, but there were people that were coming by. So there was a complete mismanagement of communication with us. And I saw in Pinnacle's response that around the time, which was February 21st, when we sent the letter letting him know that we, whatever services were still being provided, we no longer needed. This time, I hired a process server to personally serve him, since he wouldn't pick up the certified letter last time, and I want to make sure he got this one. In his response, he said that the project was approximately 75% completed. And there are two things that I would point out there. One, that's not true. I'm not a contractor, but I know what I'm looking at, and I provided pictures at Ms. Reaver's request that I took 3 days after February 21st that show where that project was. I mean, there were framed walls, but there's no sheetrock, it's not 75% complete. The other thing that I would point out about that claim is that it is an admission that if he says it's 75% complete on February 21st, it's an admission that he's in breach because his contract calls for substantial completion 180 days from the pulling of the permits, which would have been on or about October 13th. So there's a problem there. So this has just been a real nightmare for us. And I found it interesting that, again, the last minute, there is stuff being provided that shows that the permits were, that didn't pass inspection actually did, but we're finding out about that just days ago and not, a year ago, or when the inspection happened, and that could have been provided back then. So really, I mean, with that door issue, I think is legitimate, and I'm sure he'll address that. But what I'm trying to do, and I don't know if you have the authority to do this, but I would just like an accounting of where the $29,500 that we paid to Pinnacle Contractors, where'd that go? I know he spent some money. I'm not saying he didn't do anything by any means. But I would just like to know where that went, especially in light of his response where he feels he got the short end of the stick, which was breathtaking when I read that. So I'd like an accounting, if y'all are able, with receipts, not estimates. I want to see backing, trust but verify, on where that money went, if you have the ability to do that. So thank you very much.
Any questions for Mr. Parnell? I would have one, and that is, so you do agree that you were providing the windows, doors, cabinets, appliances, plumbing, light fixtures, the things that's been stated, those are things you were providing, correct?
Yes, sir. And
change orders or changes that was made, was there changes made during the process?
No. And in particular, I think the allegation was about the cabinets, right? Those cabinets had been paid for and sitting in a warehouse for over a year. Let's say approximately a year.
So the layout wasn't changed? No moving a sink, moving anything?
No, but let me go ahead and anticipate what I think the response to that is going to be. Those cabinets were built custom to specifications that we provided. They were built so they couldn't be changed. I think the confusion on some of the attachments from Pinnacle's response, which I couldn't make too much sense out of, but Ms. Reaver, again, helped me figure that out. In February, we're trying to move this thing forward. We had decided to go in a different direction than Pinnacle. So the discussion of those cabinets with Doug at Cabinets Direct were off the shelf. These were just cabinets that were going to be put up in the pantry and the laundry room. There was no custom to it. Just, we need whatever standard cabinets you have, we need those. So there were no change orders. This was all anticipated. It's a pantry, it's a laundry room. Where are you going to put your stuff? So I think there was some confusion on the part of Pinnacle when it came to what that was, and quite honestly, I think it's kind of a reach. But are there any other questions?
Does anybody else have a question at this point? There was another, I'm trying to look it up here. The framer had wrote a note, and this is in the records. I'm assuming you've seen that then.
I'll respond to the question.
A handwritten note about the extra time it took because of things that were still in the attic and the pantry. I'm trying to read this thing.
Yeah, decorations, toys, the garage was full of tools, refrigerator, boxes, etc. I had to shuffle, all these things to be completed, demolition. Cabinets, were ready for demo, cabinets were not empty, and were full of dishes and food.
So here's the part, it notified the contractor, and then when I framed the interior partition walls, I was sent back 3 times to make changes to the layout, door placement for the new rooms. Where was, and you said there was no changes, and I trust you, I'm just trying to figure out then what was he sent back 3 times to change? Was that their mistake going in your opinion? Or did y'all have partition walls moved after they were put up? Do you remember?
I don't recall that. In fact, the interesting thing, going back to the total lap.
If I can interrupt.
Yes,
The
sir.
reason I'm asking this point is I'm looking at the time frame.
Yes,
That's
sir.
what I'm looking at. Because that's a critical note that you're making. And having building business years myself and some of these other guys, we know that time can just almost get thrown out the window. When you make a change, you break the rhythm. It's like you're on a roll with it. And then when that happens, it's like you start all over. The clock, for us, the clock almost starts all over. Is that right, Mr.? And it's a tough thing to get the ball back and get everything back in order. So I'm trying to be fair with you and Mr. Ard as far as the time frame. And if there was some changes made, does that have an influence into the time frame? Does that make sense, Mr. Ard? Okay.
Well, this falls back under poor communication.
Okay.
Because the first time, I'm not going to dispute that there probably were things that were still in the attic. Cabinets not being cleaned out is because we never had a timeline of exactly when the kitchen was going to be, demolished. So we were still functioning in there, having moved some things out, but it was still a functioning kitchen that we were going to use until the last minute, So I don't dispute that there may have been things left in there. But it's funny that those allegations, the first time that I was informed of that, was his response to my complaint. So how don't blame me for slowing something down if you don't put me on notice that this is slowing me down. Can you please remedy it? Because we wanted it done.
Sure.
So is it possible there was stuff left in the attic? Absolutely. Is it possible that there were still things in the cabinets when they decided it was time to tear out the wall? Probably, But if you don't put me on notice to remedy that, what am I supposed to do?
I can respect that.
Yes, sir. As far as the changes on the doors and things, no. I mean, those
to make changes to the layout, door placement of the new rooms.
There
That's
were
what he wrote it here.
There were 3 rooms. There was
Framed in the garage door, the new window in the kitchen, was informed that opening sizes by the contractor. Ms. Parnell said the window door company was paid to do the install of the 2 French doors to the kitchen window. He put plastic over the openings. Contractor called and refused to install them. I'm sorry, you got it on the screen. I don't have to read all this off. So you understand where I'm coming from, though,
I do.
of trying to figure a time frame.
Yes, sir. And again, anything that he's not responsible for, I'm not going to dispute. So I don't
We're
recall.
looking at time frame. I think that's the biggest thing we're hearing, so we're trying to decipher what.
I had provided in my complaint.
If we can pull up the Northwest Florida's, the electrical company is also saying.
I think he said the same thing, that
Yeah, so they can look at that.
it's the one right above it, Ms. Jennifer. The next.
The attachment before.
The attachment before. Right there. Yes, ma'am. Walls removed, appliances added, etc. Each change takes time to schedule a crew and perform the work.
And that's from
Electrician Clayton Powell.
October 27th, okay. I know this. We've, again, had ordered appliances, refrigerator, freezer, ice maker.
I made no changes, 0.
And before they were able to be installed, the walls had to be changed because they had not been put in correctly. So any changes that were made to correct the errors that Pinnacle Construction had installed. And as to the door issue, we have two sets of external doors that go out back, and then we have the door that goes out to the driveway. Pinnacle installed the driveway door for sure. The other doors, they framed them, which has been a problem and lack of some things that have been pointed out to us. But any changes that were made were corrections after February 21st to get things installed.
Just trying to get our heads again,
Yes, sir.
clarify these, because several of the subs are saying change orders, walls moved, appliances added, et cetera. We're trying to figure out where that all
No.
originate from here.
No.
Okay. Any other questions, Mr. Parnell? All right. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, I appreciate your question.
Yes, sir. Mr. Ard?
I'll try to speak slowly too, because I talk fast.
Can you state your
Mark
name?
Ard,
There you go.
1525 Ora Drive, Pensacola, Florida.
1525.
Ora, O-R-A, Pensacola, Florida, 32506. Know really where to start. I'm obviously outgunned. He's an attorney and I'm a contractor, so getting in front of a board like this is not my purview normally. What we had changes, the real technical thing, first of all, Ms. Parnell was getting a magnificent kitchen with sub-zero refrigerators, refrigerator drawers, tons of built-in. The pantry, instead of just having a door that you go into, it was built into the cabinets and had to be within the 1/4 of an inch where it needed to go so that it would work properly. And the pantry, mind you, is big as my bedroom. It's 10 by 16. It had a breakfast station in there. As the changes in that were to add more appliances into it. She had said she wanted to add the refrigerator that they already had, put it into the pantry. We had a little changes in some of the plumbing. So what we did, it was a garage, it was 8 inches lower than the house. So we had to raise that to make it level to the house. So I originally hired Flow Control Plumbing to rough in under the slab part of the work. Well, they came out, we got it done. They honestly held us up a couple of weeks. They overpromise and underdeliver. I've used them on 2 jobs and they got me a headache both jobs. We roughed in the plumbing, had to move a little bit to get the pantry to line back up to that door. Once we finally got to the slab part to pour, David Tolman came out and failed the slab inspection because he said it needed a termite treatment, which it didn't because we didn't disturb the soil. It was just pouring a slab on a slab, and I had drilled it and pinned it, and where we were just raising it up that way. It just made more sense in the height of it than it did to build a wooden subfloor because they were going to tile the floor, so it would have saved Durock headache of trying to figure all those distances. So we built it up with concrete in there. When I came back in to talk to Charles Wiley, who did the plan review, and told me I didn't need any real engineered drawings. Because Tolman also failed it because there were no drawings on site. And the only thing structural we did was close the garage door, and it had its existing header. Charles just had me draw how I was going to fasten the bottom plate and how we were going to strap it to it for that section. So that was the only engineered drawing. When I talked to Charles, the day that we failed the inspection, he said, "You're good to go. Pour the slab, carry on, frame it out." So then we had those number change. I mean, I didn't, like when you add the appliances to the pantry, a refrigerator has to be on a dedicated circuit. A microwave is a dedicated circuit. So electricians got to pull these things. When it says that the doors, windows, cabinets, countertops were there outside of my contract. My contract was well more than 75% done. I was due an additional $15,000 draw when the electrical and the plumbing were done. And the only HVAC we did, they had their air conditioner changed years before, or a year or so before that, and they put an oversized unit in it, ran the ductwork into what was good. They knew they were gonna close this, so all we had to do was just pull the flex and put those grills in. I never got that draw. Where I'm well closer to $40,000 in the job than $30,000. I never told them no on anything Ms. Parnell asked. I did more, anything she said, period. But she was doing, she's, with what she was spending out of her pocket, she's gonna have a $200,000 kitchen. And I wanted her to have a $200,000 kitchen. Ralph and I, or Trey, as I call him, have been friends for 15 years. We go to happy hour and Mexican tacos. I've sent him 6 or 7 clients over the years of being in construction. People get in trouble. We've known each other and we're friends for years. He represented my daughter in a case. He represented me in a case. So there were multiple changes, and every one, like you said, it breaks the rhythm. You get, the electrician is not sitting at home waiting to send a crew out there. It's 2 weeks to get it. Plumber, same kind of deal. You can only move before each inspection. Could I have finished it quicker? Absolutely. There's always shared blame in anything. If you look at my contract, paragraph 4.3 says delays in any change orders.
Excuse me, Ms. Jennifer, could you pull up, is that under the proposal?
Yeah, that's our contract. The proposal is what we signed with the for contract.
Up above it, the project proposal?
Mhm.
2 more? There you go. Thank you.
You go to, well, you can go to Article 4.3 on there. It shows the delays in government agencies, weather conditions, labor shortages. And there were absolutely labor shortages, material shortages, owner delays, then the time shall be extended accordingly. So, I needed some extra time with any change. It was never discussed how long or what was gonna go, but just like when we went into the cabinets, I didn't communicate with Trey in anything during the project. So he told me right at the get-go, at the Mexican restaurant, we were having dinner, deal with Dawn. It's her house, her kitchen, whatever she wants, just make it happen. That's all we're trying to do. If you look at if you'll go back to Article 3.3, I've gotten $30,000, but it shows the second, he paid me the 14.5 initial. Don gave me a check for the 15 when the slab was poured. Then the next draw was to be 15,000 when the framing, electric, and HVAC were done. They were done. I never received that. And I was to the point where he fired me. We had passed the frame inspection with Charles, or Charles told me he had passed it, but he didn't ever put it in the systems. Apparently, is what happened. The drywall was delivered to do the walls. As soon as I could, we did the ceiling in the garage, so it kept that part of the house secured from the attic and going in. We couldn't insulate it because there's stuff in the attic and we weren't through, but we at least put sheetrock in there. The drywall was delivered. The drywall installers were going that day on the way to install the walls, and that's when I got the letter or email to get, to go away. Obviously, he can litigate for free, so I never asked for the remaining $15,000 that I was due. I just let bygones be bygones and walked away from it. And I didn't hear anything from him for 8 months until the complaint with Ms. Reaper. Any questions?
Is the job completed?
I don't know. He fired me. From what I understand, he never had any more inspections or any permits for any work that was done there. I don't know.
And
my part, because I was just to close in the garage, his people, Cabinets Direct, doing the cabinets, the appliances. I would have had flooring to go. All that I would have had to have finished was the drywall, and the guys were on the way. The material was there. It was just to install it. I would have had drywall, 2 interior doors. The outside was all, Hardy was done on the outside, painted, completed. I mean, I was well more than 75%, not of their whole kitchen project, but of my contract. I was well past my 75%. I mean,
The scope of work.
yeah, well into mine.
Where are we at with the permits on that job?
To go back and just clarify, I didn't really get into that because we clarified it Thursday or Friday of last week. Originally, he had 2 failed inspections, but
Correct,
it's
so-
because, but I did put a note in there. I did get with Charles and he confirmed that shouldn't have failed, which would have pushed everything else. But anyway, the permits in the manner that Mr. Parnell terminated, Mr. Ard, doesn't allow us to cancel that permit. So his permit just sits in an expired state. I did tell Mr. Parnell, since we've had the complaint, that when he's prepared to finish the kitchen, he will need to officially terminate it unless Mark terminates his own permit, so his new contractors can get in there and get that work done.
Now, of course, I'll gladly terminate the contract, whatever. I don't want to cause any additional, rigmarole for anyone, whatever I can do to put this puppy to bed, I'd rather do.
But to answer the question, there are no other, all the subs they've all passed rough. And
While the project was going on too, we had the electrician try to keep the house as functional as possible. If you've ever had a remodel and live in it, especially literally 50% of their house, it's a mess and it's a project. But we ran a piece of number 10 wire from the electrical panel over to where the laundry was, so they could continue to use washer and dryer. The only time I really had a correspondence with Trey is he called me one night at 10:30 at night. I sounded a little odd and cussed me out. I cussed him out back about he had no water heater. What it was is when they moved from a sub panel, the water heater had to be hooked to the existing electrical panel that wasn't going to be in a different location. So they have a tankless water heater, and it's got a digital thermostat on it that you have to turn on. And you just had to go turn it on to get the water heater to come on. We did everything we could to try to keep the house functional and give them what they couldn't, but everything's out of it and it's ripped to the guts of the studs. When I went to go stack out the plumbing, Flow Control promised and didn't deliver for about 10 or 14 days. It's probably the biggest drag in the project. I fired them, canceled their permit, hired Blue Water Plumbing. Blue Water Plumbing's just the stack out price cost me more than the whole contract price with Flow Control to get it done, to try to carry on. And, I had to get it done. And I can only, you got to do all that before you can get the framing inspection, put sheetrock in it. So, and when some of the stuff was changed, like Blue Water, when they came out, they had to cut the slab that would have been previously done to run electric to the island, because it was out in the middle of it. They had already had electric and water, some in it, but it needed another one with some of the appliances. I mean, she had it laid out spectacular. And to say that there were no changes in the cabinets is, it's just not true. I was in contact with Doug Jerome. He did 4 or 5 layouts. It was very similar, but 1 or 2 inches of moving anything changes everything.
Sure.
So,
So, just for clarification, the framing inspection is passed, electrical, heating and air, and plumbing stackouts and rough ends are all passed.
yes, that's correct.
And that was 15,000 on that drawer when that was done. That was never
I never received it.
received. Gotcha. Okay. Okay. Any other questions for Mr. Ard? Thank you, Mr. Ard.
May I respond briefly?
Sure, Mr. Parnell. Walk to the podium, please.
Yeah, look, it's with no joy that I'm before you all today. I've enjoyed the company of Mark Art over the years. I have, and I hope at some point we'll be able to rekindle that.
I
So
hope
this is
so
not-
too.
It's not
because
personal.
It's not worth it.
It's not personal.
Life's too short for us, right?
Of course. some of the things that I'm hearing today, I'm hearing for the first time. You know, I mean, this draw that he was due, we didn't let him go because, you know, oh God, we owe him some money. We're not going to do that. Every time he's asked for a draw, we've made that. It's just we didn't know where the project was. We kept asking for a meeting, and he wouldn't meet with us. If he had simply, and this is probably a September, October time period where he and I had the telephone conversation, which turned out to be our last. That's all we wanted. What's going on? When's it going to end? Where are we? That and if he had,
But you can understand being an attorney, and I know several of us up here in the industry can understand for sure, when someone's terminated and money's owed, there is flags on a normal basis, I think would be a fair assessment, because, I mean, you're an attorney, you understand that. That's something that gets people's attention, you know what I'm saying? And then whenever it's terminated, I mean, that is a flag of sorts. And I take your word that you're saying what you are, but you can understand that.
I totally understand. But
Okay,
again,
right.
if you don't give me notice that you're owed that, and it's never been mentioned until I got his response, no.
He never asked for that particular,
No.
never submitted a draw request, I guess you call it.
No, and that's why I found it so breathtaking when in his response, he said he got out the short end of the stick. Well, now after hearing what he's saying today, I don't agree, but I can understand where
There
he's
you go.
coming from,
There
but
you
I've
go.
never heard that before.
There you go. And I appreciate that.
And just for the attorney thing, there are a lot more contractors in here than attorneys, so I feel like, you know, I'm
Yeah, we like it that way.
outnumbered. I bet you do. But thank you for your attention to this. I appreciate it.
I'm just kidding, Ms. Potter.
I have a question. What is the current status of the house?
The kitchen is not complete. We've had, you know, the appliances were installed, the cabinets were installed, the countertops were installed with the vendors that we had do that. The interior doors that we got from Lowe's had to be reordered, and so we're still waiting for those. We had flooring installed, you know. So what we have now is a functional kitchen. All right, that happened sometime early midsummer, you know. So it's not finished, but we're not cooking things in the air fryer anymore unless we want to, you know. I mean, so we have oven, microwave, stove. So it's not finished by any stretch, but it's functional.
Do you have another contractor?
We've talked to several. The problem that we've had is that contractors are afraid to come in behind somebody that, you know, the job isn't complete. So we've spoken to several, but we've had that problem. So what we've done, we've really had done more piecemeal than with one contractor.
Okay. So no permit's been pulled even by yourself as an owner finish?
No.
To do this work?
Not yet. But we're hoping that sometime in the very near future, we're going to be able to move in that direction and get it done. We're just so happy to have the kitchen back that we've kind of slowed ourselves in trying to get the finished product done.
I want to just get a little clarification here too now. So when this termination happened, the cabinets were not installed, et cetera. So someone has come in and finished the electrical and the plumbing?
It hasn't been finished, you know, I mean,
Somebody's been working on the job.
Yeah, we've had people that have made
I would
it
encourage
functional.
that there needs to be some permits pulled pretty quickly, because
Yes, sir, but I mean, like.
I think without being said, you're an attorney, you understand what I'm saying.
I understand what you're saying, yeah, but it's mainly been, you know, the appliances that have been put in.
I think they would, Mr. Bello, is that your new name?
No.
Is that your new name, Mr. Bello? I just pick it at you. I think it would be understandable though that for these guys to work on the job, Mr. Parnell, there's got to have to be a permit pulled, or else there can be some exposure there that, you know what I'm saying, for your own protection as well.
Right.
If something happens to your home, I'm not sure, we have an insurance lady down there, I'm not sure the insurance will cover if it's an unlicensed or unpermitted activity. I mean, there's question areas that you might want to, for your protection.
Oh, I
make sure you
appreciate
take care of
that.
it, just for what it's worth. I'm not an attorney, disclaimer.
But you're a contractor,
Miss
and there are lots
Christie.
of them in this room, like I said.
How was the quality of work that was done by Mr. Ard?
With the exception of the deficiencies that we pointed out previously, the demolition in particular, I mean, woof, it was gone. The floor that was poured wasn't, even,
There's no perfect concrete yet.
Right, but, so, I'd give him, overall, with the exception of the deficiencies we've talked about, solid
Sure.
B, I mean, I'm not.
Is there no chance of reconciliation and having him come back and finish the work? I mean, I'm just throwing that out there because, again, being in construction, it is so hard to find a good general contractor or residential contractor to come out that the quality of your work is always compromised because, people are hiring people that they know they shouldn't, but they're doing it because they're so desperate in the fact that they need to get something done, and they underbid the job. And in this case, I'm not hearing that the contractors walked away with the money, which we a lot of times do, and the quality of work is still there. And being that there's a relationship, I'm just kind of like thinking that, again, being in the business that you're in, being in the business there, try to come to some sort of reconciliation to where, hey, okay, here's what needs to be done, timeline, communication, and let's get this project knocked out. I'm not advising of them, I'm just saying, throwing that out there that, and when you bring in somebody else, and you're absolutely right, the same thing, me, myself, if I'm having to go in there and finish off somebody else's work, I'm certainly not gonna go in at the price that I would if I'm going in there just doing the work. I'm gonna be worried about any liabilities that are gonna come my way based on the fact that the previous contractor has done any faulty workmanship. And it's hard for you as a homeowner, me being a homeowner myself, to, hey, who do I point the finger to? This guy came in and finished this job, but then, then it just becomes a whole long, drawn-out process like this is being. And then that's one, but then second thing I've got to ask is that, so the not the dispute, but the complaint is just based on the timeline, that there was no communication and that, there was 180 days that were provided and he went to 10 months. And then the termination happened on the month 10, or did it happen on month 9 or 8? Do we know when the termination happened between you and the general contractor?
It was February 21st is when we gave notice.
How many days was that from the time of executing the contract? Was it 10 months? I read
The
somewhere
contract, I didn't bring my notes up here.
What, about 10 months?
It's
Yeah.
about
Yeah,
9,
and again, and
10
I'm not, it kind of looks bad, but delays happen. And it's unfortunate that there was no communication here. If there would have been communication, I think you would have been fine. Just a simple email, basic reports on a weekly basis. Here's what's happening this week. I apologize, but this is due to this and due to that. And I don't know, from what I'm hearing, maybe from both parties also, because there were some things that you were ordering, and you just said that you had some cabinets and stuff that's still being delivered, or doors or something. I don't know if that was a part of
two
his
doors.
scope, or if it was not a part of his scope.
It was, but I mean, these are just doors for the,
Gotcha.
the entry to the laundry room and the
Gotcha.
bathroom and, that sort of thing. So it shouldn't be, things that would hold up.
Okay. I have no other
Anything,
comments or
but,
questions.
and I appreciate your comments there, and obviously if Mr. Ard and I can talk, we'll see, I don't
Over a
know
margarita
where
at the
he is
Mexican
on it, and
restaurant.
I don't know where, quite honestly, I don't know where I am on it, but,
Yeah.
Hope Springs Eternal, is to him quoting that part of his contract, 3.3, there were no change orders that we were ever made aware of. And again, I hate to keep beating this horse,
Sure.
but if he had made the presentation to us
Yeah.
back in October after the letter in November to just come talk to us,
It would've
we
been
probably wouldn't be here. So that's the problem.
And unfortunately, we all get busy. I know I'm guilty and don't do diligence on our paperwork of change orders sometime because you want to get an owner happy, and, unfortunately, it bites us sometimes.
Yeah, it does.
So that does happen.
Thank you very much.
Thank you again. Okay, any other questions here on the board before I check this? Any other questions?
I'll have no questions.
No, I'm ready to make a motion to dismiss.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Motion to dismiss.
We have a motion on the floor to dismiss the alleged violation 18-37D 13C.3.
I'll second.
Second, Mr. Ronnie. All in favor, say aye. Raise your right hand. Excuse me. I'm used to the aye thing. All opposed, raise your right hand. None. Seeing none, hearing none, all in, did I see one? Okay. The motion,
Raise your right hand, right? For opposed?
it's not opposed, there's no opposed, there's no opposition. The, motion is passed to dismiss the case. Now, I would like to add that I appreciate you still doing what you did as a citizen, even though we don't necessarily proceed forward here today. And I think you can understand the big picture of what we're doing. But I don't want this to be a thing of walking away feeling like, we didn't try to pay good attention here and do with what we had.
No, and I think y'all provide an important service to the community and to citizens to at least having sat through and watched the prior hearings. I think what y'all do is important work and give citizens a place to go if they feel like they've been aggrieved.
Right.
If I showed here over every hearing I lost, I'd be so. But anyway, thank y'all for your.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Chair, can we get a 5-minute break, please?
I guess we will automatically have a 5-minute break
Thank you,
here.
sir.
Everybody's getting up walking. Sorry about that. You're gonna have to have. You're gonna have to have a massage. You're gonna need a massage on your hands after today.
Even after you sent me that, it seems like Ken still is the better role too. Okay, you wanna call me back?
Don't worry about that, I'm just tired right now. I'm gonna go see this one outside. What's up, man? I'm fine, how are you? I'm fine.
detention pond, this, yes, this area floods a lot. That's why this building is built with a floating floor, and our parking lot is a special parking lot system to curb water. And so, we got funded, I think grant funded or something, to build, and that's our property, it's county-owned property. And, to alleviate the flooding issue, they're putting a pond. And it's supposed to have a walking path around it, it's supposed to be kind of nice. I'll be right back.
Be right back.
Yes. Yes. So that's their outlook. I think there's a thermos, hey. There might be a thermostat right there.
Austin's the one who wants it. He doesn't get it.
Yes, sir. Trustee Penn here. Back in session. Thank you. I apologize for being a little chilly in here. I don't know what happened, but it's a little bit cold.
Yes, sir.
Next case, our disciplinary hearing.
Yes, sir. This item is Christopher W. Brown doing business as Shooting Stars Construction LLC, state registered license number RG 0019314, Contractor Competency Board complaint number 230557 COM. It's in regard to Vin Cow, the homeowner complainant at 3709 Idlewood Drive, Pensacola, Florida 32505. As you can recall, this case has already been decided in regard to violations. This hearing is only for restitution purposes only. We had them come back for a hearing last month, and there was some confusion as to a restitution amount, and you directed them to come back with an amount. It's my understanding that additional documentation has been provided by both parties, correct, Melissa?
Yes, there has been.
So staff is gonna request that that additional documentation attached to the attached to the agenda as backup be moved into evidence for today.
So moved.
All in favor say, raise your right hand, excuse me. All opposed likewise, seeing none, hear none, motion approved.
And proper notice, of course, was sent to the respondent. Both parties are present today, and I'm going to have them sworn. Just a reminder, Ms. Reber was already sworn.
Would you raise your right hand and be sworn? Do you solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Thank you.
At this time, I'm going to call Mr. Cowell up so he can provide some additional insight.
Mr. Cow, please approach the podium.
And Mr. Cowell, I'm going to request that you give us your amount and then just a brief justification for your amount, okay?
And you state your name and address again for the record, please.
Thank you. My first name is Vin. My last name is Cow. I live in 1743 Cedars Lane in Pensacola.
743.
Cedars, Cedrus. Lane, LN, and 32514. And before I give you the total amount, and just want to give you some evidence about false claim on the cost of what.
Was this provided to Ms. Reber?
Yes.
So if you'll tell me which, is this the last item, dispute of charges?
Yes.
Okay, I'm going to bring that up for you.
She'll have it on the screen.
Yes, thank you. And that is the one that I itemized it out. And I would like to go back to the attachment from Shooting Star provided to the board.
Go back to the attachment of what?
From Shooting Star.
Oh, Shooting Star.
Yes, thank you. I think that the first one, that's one right there. Mobile lumber, never getting paid. I got sued.
You had a lien?
Yes, I got a lien on that. So, but they do attach to that, request to pay.
So it was on their request?
That's on their request. So that is the false. And they went through to the attorney and everybody, but nobody respond.
And I have your breakdown up on their screen, so if you just want to go through your breakdown that's up on the screen there and explain.
Can you make it a little bit? Sorry,
Yes, sir.
I don't have glass. Yes. The flooring, the paint, everything that come from Likely Enterprise is fraud. The reason I proved to you fraud because the cost of my septic system never got a permit, and they put a permit under my name, like I did prove it to you before. And they charged me $8,500. I agree, High Woodland Construction charged me only $6,000. But the state department is failed, so I have to pay off of that. That's why I'm asking, take all of that out from the Lately Enterprise, because it's not true. And I also have this one right here with the check. I don't know what in that page that is.
Is that part of the backup that
Yes, yeah.
Mr. Perez provided?
This is from the cost of doing AC, HVAC, and I think that plumbing. I have two checks. Both of them are $3,950. Those are the check pay on February 1st. The money I draw, approve, it come into the banks. The first draw to April 28th for $42,952.50. The second draw is on May 17. Every time the bank come over to give you the raw money, the inspection. So those are already paid. And they're telling me that they did not get paid. And we did contact one of those air master, I believe. He said that no problem because he never gave us the compressor or the AC. So he waived that. I just want to point it out, something that's not true about them. I'm not asking more money. And I'm asking the money to finish my house. That's it. Thank you.
So go back, Ms. Jennifer, to the budget number, yeah. If you scroll down, it tells us at the end here. So you're saying the total now is $240,161.31?
Correct.
Is that your?
Yes.
Based on what you submitted to us here?
Yes, because the lumber that I have to pay.
Okay, anybody have any questions for Mr. Cowell? Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much.
And then, Mr. Brown, or counsel?
Thank you. Benjamin Alexander. My address is 811 North Spring Street, Pensacola, Florida. So at our last hearing, I had advised the board that at the previous hearing, I had spoke to Mr. Cow after the hearing, talked to him about how the fact that we needed to go into the property. Mr. Cow had let the board know and had let me know that he had an attorney. The last board hearing, I informed you that I had contacted Mr. Cow to ask for his attorney to contact me and had not heard anything yet. Mr. Cow, of course, disputed this, but following the hearing, I met with Mr. Cow, and I had him finally tell me who his attorney was so I can contact him directly, because unfortunately the plan of asking his attorney to contact me was too much. So I contacted Mr. Robert Sanders, Hadley Sanders, on October 5th. Mr. Cow's response from last week contains an email from his attorney indicating that he received my email on the 5th and had not responded to me. That email was dated October 19th. To date, I haven't heard back from his attorney about going and inspecting the property. Mr. Cow has indicated several times he doesn't want this to delay. I understand his need to do that. However, he has to allow us to go into the property to inspect it. Simply put, my client is unable to defend themselves in any way. And backing up a little more, when Mr. Cow initially terminated this contract, he immediately locked up the property. At the time, there was some materials and some equipment still there. Since that time, my clients have not been able to go back into the property. So ever since this entire process has started, they have been excluded from the property. We have made several requests to it. I have included a written demand to get into the property. It filed with, I believe further down on this very exhibit is a copy of his attorney's email indicating that, acknowledging my October 5 email and indicating that he hasn't responded to it. Simply put, we're trying to get in there because we want to refute many of the things that were said. Some of the pictures and stuff that were provided later, simply, we want to go in there and be able to verify that, because these are all very one-sided. So that's an initial issue. We still have not been able to get into the property. Now, with respect to his request for restitution, there are several items which we, of course, dispute. I understand Mr. Cow has some disputes as to some of the things that my client had filed. However, there are several matters on his request that are simply unsupported by the very contract between the parties. Now included in this, and this would be a previous document that he provided, he indicated that he was seeking for sod and landscaping an amount of $10,000, an amount of $35,000 for his driveway. Additionally, he was seeking $3,322 regarding a tub and $5,992.25 regarding gas lines. Now, the latter two issues, the gas lines and the tub, my client filed some stuff from Hogan Plumbing indicating, among other things, that the owner himself had picked out that tub. So that was a tub that was obtained at the owner's request. And so I understand that after it was delivered, Mr. Cow no longer wanted that tub. Unfortunately, he's trying to have my clients pay for a new tub. My clients didn't order that tub. He did. He subsequently didn't like it. He would like my clients to buy him a new tub. Same thing with the gas lines. The gas lines were never included in the contract. So the additional costs in there, and again, that was for Hogan Plumbing, that amounted to $5,992.25. Those were additional amounts that would be outside of the scope of the contract. These are amounts that ultimately were not paid. As for the driveway and the landscaping, there's nothing in their contract. My clients never agreed to pour a driveway. They never agreed to do any sod. They never agreed to do any landscaping. These are additional amounts that are being sought by Mr. Cow. The amounts that I just referenced between the landscaping, driveway, tub, and gas line equal $54,314.36.
Could you repeat that number again, please?
Sure. $54,314.36. This is obviously an exceptionally large amount of money that someone is seeking that he's not entitled to. Between the additional asks for things not in the contract and the fact that Mr. Cow and his counsel have frustrated our attempts to get into the property, I'm at a bit of a loss. I understand this is a quasi-judicial proceeding. I don't have my typical tools to make demands, make requests, and stuff like that. I'm limited in my ability to send out subpoenas. However, normally I would have every opportunity to inspect this property. I'd be able to obtain additional information. I'm surprised, frankly, that his attorney hasn't gotten back to me. I don't understand why that wouldn't have been done where we could arrange access. And so, again, I'm just kind of frustrated by this entire process. I've been trying to get in there to have my clients, my clients have talked to two different contractors who have agreed to serve in the role of coming in and inspecting and serving as an expert witness. We just need access to the property at this point. So at this time, any order of restitution is going to be premature simply because of the fact that my client hasn't had the opportunity to defend himself and hasn't had access to the property. That is something that we believe is essential for them to be able to present a defense to the board to refute many of these claims, because simply put, what we have is, since their access to the property has been blocked, they've had a subsequent contractor that came in and submitted some rounded figures for how much everything's going to cost. We just don't have any ability to go in there and refute any of these line items. And without that, my client's kind of stuck because the board's going to make a decision based on evidence from one party, and the other party has not had an opportunity to submit evidence. So, at this point, without an opportunity to actually go in and inspect the property, we're just, our hands are tied, and this would be clearly inequitable to allow a large restitution, especially where right off the bat I've already identified about a fifth of his figures are just exorbitant and aren't even included in the contract. And so I do think that having the opportunity to actually go into that property would be nice. I was hoping Mr. Cow's attorney would be here today so that we could address that and still no. So I will contact his attorney again and see if we can arrange for that. Mr. Perez previously had tried to contact Mr. Cow. I learned last week that Mr. Cow will not allow Mr. Perez to the property, so perhaps that's why he has not been responding to Mr. Perez. That's fine. I can arrange someone else to go out there. I do need Mr. Perez to go out there because he was a superintendent. So in terms of going and inspecting the work, I think that's an unreasonable restriction. But we can send someone else in addition to Mr. Perez. Mr. Brown can go out there. We can certainly do that. We just need to have the opportunity to do that.
I think from the previous meeting, and I can be corrected here from minutes, but you guys had wanted access to the property last time. I remember the mentioning of that. I don't remember the mentioning of there being a dispute, the fact that this work was not finished. And the pictures that we've seen, we took disciplinary action on some of those items because the evidence is here. Ms. Jennifer, you can correct me on
That's
what.
correct. So Mr. Brown was found in violation of some items.
Right.
That's not what we're here for.
We're just here for restitution
It was
amounts
restitution
today.
only when, if you recall from the last hearing, Mr. Perez came in late, and provided some information.
Right.
And then Mr. Cal didn't have the opportunity to see that
See that, right.
information. So you told him to go back, review everything, come back with a number.
So we're not, I appreciate what you're saying, but a site visit, I'm not sure would have anything to do with our restitution today, because we're not saying, is it done right or wrong? We've already said that there's things that's not right. What we're looking at today is, we need to figure out an amount, and we've been pushing this down the road. This has been months, I don't know how many months, but it's been a while. So we're trying to come to this number that's here. So just for, I don't want to short you in the fact that a site visit would have been good, yes, sir. But I'm not sure that it's detrimental to us moving forward today because the evidence has already been presented to us. Now, I would ask for this, if we can, where was the accounting of Shooting Star on here as well? Because I'd like to go back and see, you're saying that there's no site work, no driveway,
For the contract, there was no agreement to do any landscaping or
no
sodding.
gas lines?
There was no contract line item for gas lines.
So how was he gonna put a fixture in that required gas without that gas line being included?
The
Could I
homeowner
ask-
requested it after the fact.
So this was a change order that was after the fact to add gas?
Correct. It was unwritten. There was no written change order, but it was done at the behest of the homeowner. And again, as the documents provided by my client, it shows that the homeowner directly picked out the tub from home.
I'm not disputing whether, if they picked it. I'm just trying to figure out the gas lines. Typically, that would have been
It would have been in the drawings.
somewhere in the drawings and
So you're saying
understood.
it's not in the drawings?
Wasn't in the original plans.
So there's no gas line going into that home?
My understanding is at some point later, it was requested that the gas line be added.
For that particular appliance or for
I
in
believe
general?
so, perhaps.
Can you please come to,
Yes, sir.
and you have to give us your name and address, I'm sorry.
Name and address.
Pedro A. Perez, 4912 Suffolkville Road.
Thank you, sir.
4912 Suffolkville Road.
Thank
The gas line was, actually, he wants to have a summer kitchen in the back of the house, and that's why he requested for a gas line on. My point of view is that he's trying to build a 4,350 square foot house for with $315,000, which is amount to about $89 a square foot.
We've already settled it, that was a low ball to begin with. Right now, we're looking at one item, and that is this gas line.
Yeah,
The gas line was after the fact, because they want a summer kitchen in the back of the house.
And the summer kitchen was not included
That
in the
was not
original
included in
contract
the-
at all.
Exactly.
So no work on the gas line was commenced through your company?
No, sir.
Okay, and then I'm guessing the house is moving forward, and there's a gas line in there now?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay,
I'm asking-
thank y'all.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Mr. Cal, would you like to?
Thank you. And if you look back to the amount, the number of the last time we meet, that Shooting Star come up with $106,000. That is including their dispute about the gas line, $5,500. I never say anything about that. I'm dispute the money they included is false, like lumber, the check that I pay for the raw. I did not asking about anything about this the front yard, the side, because that's the future money. We haven't drawn
So
yet.
you're not included in your 240,
No, I did not.
that's not included
No, no, I
a
did not.
driveway, nor
Cor-
landscaping,
correct.
nor gas line?
That's correct.
What about the tub?
The tub I did, because I did not replace the tub. The tub I bought for it, they agree with that, the installation, but what the negligence is, whoever did the install missing all the part. I did wrote the letter in the evidence. When you miss the part, you cannot buy the part. They asked me to buy the new tub. I told them that's bullshit. I'm so sorry, but I'm so upset with that, because I just want the pieces. But they tell me, no, I don't know what to do. So I have to include that in there.
So you're saying it was of their workers' negligence?
Correct.
That was
It's
installed
missing,
improperly, that it has to be replaced? Okay.
Correct.
Thank you for that
I never
clarification.
say anything about
Okay.
why it's there.
All right.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Cow.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'd like to pull back up again and try to figure out where these figures are actually coming in at. I know he says 240. Can you go back to the last one there?
240, 160, 131.
Say it again.
240, 160, 131.
And Mr. Cow is saying this does not include driveway, landscaping, or the gas lines. So I need to find out where the breakdown is to get to that 240, so we can just verify that is it or is it not? Okay, so here we are.
So this was previously provided. This is his breakdown for the 229, 58709. He references that number here in the
Right,
new
right,
item,
right.
but with the added lumber
Okay, can you go
cost.
back to the last one more time?
Yes,
Okay.
sir.
So the Woodland Construction is on cash. So I don't see anything in there for landscape or driveway nor gas lines. Is that correct? Does anybody see anything I don't see?
The question, is it in the Woodland construction contract for the 193?
Yeah, in the Woodland Construction contract, do you have a copy of that? Ms. Jennifer should be done.
I believe it is attached here. Hang on just a moment. That was it right there.
Okay, can you just ease up or ease
on.
down?
I'm gonna go to
Start at
the-
the top and ease down?
Yes,
We're-
sir, right
We're
here.
looking for three things, driveway, landscaping, and gas lines.
Mm-hmm.
Hello?
I will say it.
So I don't see it so far.
There is no reference to driveway, landscaping, any
Okay,
of
does anybody
those
see?
items.
No.
Okay, so those items are not included in the amount there.
There's an email dated 9/6/20.
Could you please walk to the podium? Thank you, counsel.
In the agenda packet, there's an email dated 9/26/23 that includes those numbers. And if those aren't being sought,
It's not on you see what we're looking at on the screen there?
no, I do, yes.
So that I'm just verifying that these items are not on there. Do you agree with that then at this point?
No, I agree with that.
I'm not trying to pin you, I'm just
No, I mean-
trying to make sure we're on the same page here.
In the communications he sent to me into the board, he said he was seeking, let's see here,
Okay,
landscaping / saw 10,000, driveway 35,000. That was included in his request. Total other costs to complete the house, despite redo cost was 54,650, and that included those
Gotcha.
foregoing numbers.
thank you. So, Ms. Jennifer, if you go back to the one that showed the breakdown again, 193, and added these items to it, I believe it's the second tab in. Oh, right there, there we go, okay. So everybody understand where we're coming up with the 229 before he added the 10?
Correct.
Okay, and if you go to the next one then, one right behind it, okay. So everybody understands the 229, the adding of the 10
From mobile lumber.
for the mobile lumber? Is everybody clear? Just making sure we're on the, okay. So I'll entertain a motion from someone concerning the amount of restitution. Mr. Cow is asking for $241,6131. Council had mentioned some things that we researched and found are not included. So, what's the thoughts of the board?
I got one thing to say on that.
Mr. Brown, will you please walk to the stand and give your name and address, please?
Chris Brown, 1234 Brown Circle, Gulf Breeze 32563. On the trim work and all, that's right. I called him up and told him to put a lien on the property because he hadn't paid me for the materials. And he's got the bill, and I gave it to him, but I don't know if he's paid it or not. But I'm not gonna pay my money out that I already put in there and not gonna get reimbursed on my draw. He did not give me my last, 2 more draws I got coming. He just stopped it. And he told me he did go call the bank, but that was a lie, because he didn't do it. That's all I got to say. But anything, that 10,000, whatever, that is his bill, and he owes that, not me.
So, from what I'm understanding, though, you were paid draws up to a certain amount, right?
That's right, and I got supposed to have 1 more draw coming, to
Understand.
pay these last bills, and then I got another draw when I finished the house up. And I already got too much money tied up in it, my own money. So, I'm just letting you know.
Final comment?
Mr. Cow, final comments, please? You walk the stand.
I just wondering, it's nothing personal, it's the business. I just want to comment on what Mr. Proud just said. I never got the bill until I got the lawyer say that they're suing me. That's how I got my lawyer.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
The lien that came from Mobile
clear.
Lumber.
Yes, yeah, we have no
I
idea.
got you. Thank you. Thank you, sir. Okay, so is there any discussion, any thoughts from anyone here about this? I know we've heard it and heard it and heard it, so. I'll entertain a motion from someone on a restitution amount. Mr. Cow is asking for $241,6131. Anybody want to make a motion, or what's the desire?
I'll make a motion for 241,6131 to be paid in restitution.
Within your motion, can you specify a time frame in which it needs to be paid, and then
Right.
also what should happen if it should not be done within that time frame?
Got one more question.
Go ahead.
On this restitution you're talking about, okay, y'all going off this other contractor's price, $220,000, whatever it is. And I ain't had a chance yet to bring my contractors in, whoever I get, to look and see, let them write their estimate up, see what it costs to finish the house up. So y'all basing it on $220,000? You want me to pay that? And it ain't been fair for me yet to justify that price of the other contractor. That's it.
Well, I think to answer that would be that, the numbers that was presented, we just reviewed, were not out of proportion, A. B, it appears that the project was either underbid or something from the very beginning, because to build the amount of square footage that was asked for the amount, I think we all felt like at the same time that was, I don't know if it's the word's impossible, but that, there was.
Challenging.
Yeah, challenging to do that to begin with. And then I guess you'd say 3, as you've heard today, when you bring somebody else in, Mr. Brown, and you're very skilled in this industry for years, when you bring somebody in behind somebody else, it always costs more. They're dealing with stuff that is behind the walls, et cetera, and those are items that is just a factor of the industry. It just costs more to come in behind and fix versus doing it right the first time.
But I should have a choice to get some other buddy out there to give me a bid on it to verify that is right.
Do you have any particular amounts that you've had a chance to look at this? Ms. Jennifer, could you pull up the report again, just way down there. Do you have any particular items you want us to look at here that you feel like is disputable?
Excuse me. Should I say my name again?
No, you're fine
Okay,
now.
yeah. They picked up all the items that they want in the floor, all the items that they want in the bathroom, everything they were located. The only thing wrong that they would never agree with anything that we have finished. And the time when the house was 75% of almost finished with the details, some members of the family came over and wanted to take over the situation. And this is how everything started. Because we started a very, very friendly situation, which it was the bank only agreed to give him so much money, and then he says he will come out of pocket for the rest of it. So the house would have been at least $550,000 off, because I'm the one that talked to him after the fact, and he agreed with me verbally that the bank will give him so much money, and he will come out with the rest of the money if they would have come out this way.
I appreciate your input there, but just try to stay focused on this part. Are there items up here on this screen that you and Mr. Brown look at and say that they're just like definitely out of line? I'm reading through here as we're scrolling up, and yeah, I might be able to get a better price on something. I saw a porta potty at $100 and something. I might be able to get it for 85 or 90.
These whole prices are out of proportion. Besides that,
Can you show me which one, Mr.? Not just a blanket statement. If you can show us something that we need to pay attention to, we're open to look at it. But I don't, you guys have had time to look at this before today. I looked at it, and I looked at it again yesterday, and while, there's always something you might be able to save $1 here, whatever, but I didn't see anything that was, did you, Mr. Irwin, that was just like?
Yeah, I got a question on the permit. I've been on jobs where there was a permit and that person was released or whatever, and I was appointed and I didn't have to pay for another permit. Is that?
So there were some situations where there was some board action against certain contractors where the BCC waived permitting for anyone that came in after those contractors. In this instance, there is no waiver for this particular contractor. However, there is a difference between a finishing permit to finish it up or a full permit. So keep in mind, there were some inspections performed. There were some things where we can take those costs off of those permits. Usually there's a situation where there's only a final inspection. So we would take off, if it was an addition, you take off the square footage amount and only add on the inspection amounts. So there is some play there in the permit cost.
So we're looking at timeline, so I know you have counsel here. Is there any specific timelines that you guys would need in order to make the restitution? And I know you're probably gonna litigate this outside of this room, but I'm just trying to be considerate to both parties at this point in time and at this juncture that we're in.
Can I ask a quick question while that's coming up? One of the items on here is this erosion site prep. I don't understand why, I mean, if they're not responsible for if he hadn't sided the yard or protected the yard from erosion, why is he paying $9,800 to have?
Why is he?
Paying $9,800 to have it regraded and all that stuff done that probably should have been there to start with.
I think some pictures showed that there was erosion that had happened due to the construction.
Okay. Just a
And-
question.
Just because I think that's right, we can verify the
Historically, I
pictures.
think there was some statements about not proper erosion controls in place, and that resulted in some washout.
I think that's what that was about. I believe.
Continue.
I would request the maximum amount of time allowable by the board for the restitution, considering both the amount of time and the fact that this will ultimately be a civil dispute.
What is the maximum amount of time we're allowed to?
It's my understanding that whenever you found him in violation, you did not set any time frames for suspension or probation, and of course, you did not revoke his license. So you don't have an established timeline as of right now. It is up to the board's discretion on the timeline, given the amount or the situation in general. Historically, the board has always taken into consideration both parties and how much and what's feasible for both. You might want to get some advice from both parties and see what they think would be feasible for them.
I'm sure for the receiving party, it would be yes tomorrow, but so the paying party isn't.
5 years from
And
now.
left it to us. So what I would do is I would say give them 6 months to make restitution.
180 days.
180 days to make restitution. And there was one more thing you asked for in the motion.
What should happen should he fail to make restitution within that 6-month period?
What's our options?
So
You could do.
the blanket option is he will come back before this board. You have also chosen, will automatically suspend a license, automatically put him on probation, automatically revoke a license. You have several options available to you, but it's up to you.
So why don't we do, come back to us if the restitution is not made in 6 months?
Can you repeat that, sir?
Bring it back to the board if the restitution isn't paid in 6 months.
Yes, sir.
So to clarify, I have a motion on the floor to grant restitution in the amount of $240,161.31 to the owner. And the amount is to be paid within 180 days. And if not, then Shooting Stars Construction would have to come back before the competency board.
Correct.
Do I have a second to that motion?
Second.
I have a second. Randy. Any discussion?
I hate to do this, but I do have a question.
Sure.
It's kind of for council. In typical environment, would something like this go to a mediation, and then if mediation is not able to be reached, then something, that's just a question? Because I understand the dispute is the amount, and that's the question. I'm just curious before we make the final decision.
You mean in the lawsuit itself, in the civil case?
Well, I don't know. Because in a typical case, would it go to a mediation? I think the big struggle here with the party is the dollar amount there, and I don't know.
Right, so if there was a civil case pending, but that would be outside that's not
Okay.
among your options. Is
Okay,
that,
it's
is
not
that
among
what you're
mine.
asking?
Yeah.
Okay.
And if it's not listed in the actual agreement, the council can probably help with this. If it doesn't state mediation or arbitration, then it's not an option available to the parties at that time.
Under the civil cases, that's gonna be separate from what your options are.
Got you.
Yeah, we just don't have the choice. That's what.
Correct, yeah, that's, well, our hands are tied, right, based
Okay.
on what I've
They
heard
could
of
always
this.
bring it back if they end up in a lawsuit, and I don't know if there's been a lawsuit filed, but if they were in a lawsuit, then, and there was a mediated amount, and it came back as a lower amount, they could certainly bring that back at any time. But in the 6 months and say, hey, this is what we've mediated to.
And the board would take that into consideration.
And that's my reason for not to automatically suspend the license in the event it's not paid. Because we know it's fixing to go to another path, and then it comes back in 6 months, and then at least we can establish it at that time to look and see where we're at.
Right, but for the parties, a civil case would it would be collateral and not determinant
Understood.
of your decisions and the requirement to comply with your order.
Understood. Okay, we have a motion and a second.
Okay, so any other discussion from anybody? We'll take a vote. All in favor, said motion, raise your right hand. All opposed, same sign. Seeing none, hearing none, motion has passed.
If there's no other votes.
I have just one thing real quick before we adjourn. Thank you guys for all showing up. I'm not gonna thank you for voting last month. But thank you. And anything we can do to help from our standpoint, if you can let us know, and council can tell us how, because I know we're under sunshine laws, if we need to direct anything to you guys and let it flow through y'all, however the proper procedure is, to help us out here. If we can improve, you know, sometimes you have to go back and fine tune stuff. So if there's anything we can do in your suggestions, and I appreciate everybody, helping out and the input that you all give from your expertise. I very much appreciate that.
And we appreciate you.
Oh, not yet.
They can email either one of us, and we can make sure that it gets addressed or to you as needed.
Okay.
Without it
That makes
being a sunshine law violation, we would certainly control that situation.
Mr. Cal, I'm sorry, was yours something?
Just wanted to say, appreciate your help. Really, that's mean a lot to us.
Okay.
And if we, like I said previously, we pleading, but we really appreciate that. So now we can move forward with our house. And also that I wanted a little bit dispute off the record that Shooting Star has the lawyer come here right at the beginning for the second meeting. And I give presentation, everything. They never dispute anything.
That's
Thank
okay.
you. Thank you.
We're done. We got it done. Thank you, sir. Is there any other board? If not, meeting adjourned. Thank you. I know, right? I can find one, that's for sure. Hey, Mr. Blue, I had to mess with you about that.
I was impressed. I know, right? He's a natural.
I had to mess with you about that name. Below, is that what it is? I had to mess with you about that. I knew he was good. Yeah. Well, thank you. Yeah, I didn't,